So emotional regulation is also actually very important, because after you're able to recognize and label your emotions, you understand how certain emotions trigger the unhealthy behaviors.
Welcome to Reclamation, the podcast where conversations meet practical insights, guiding you through the maze of behavioral science to empower better public health outcomes. With a passion for bridging the gap between medicine, psychology, and sociology, Tabo brings a unique perspective to every episode. Get ready to reclaim your understanding of health and behavior. This is Reclamation.
How many goals have you set in your life that you actually have not seen through? Health goals in this context, obviously. How many times have you told yourself you're going to eat better, you're going to eat more greens and more proteins, you're going to cut down on specific maybe meals or portions or type of food? How many times have you told yourself you're going to maybe reduce on your substance intake, which could be the alcohol, the smoking, the tobacco? How many times have you told yourself you're going to work out more? How many times have you actually set a goal of wanting to do this and hoping you would achieve it, but then you somehow do not? I have been in similar situations so many times. I have found myself indulging in behavior I wouldn't want to, or struggling to indulge in a behavior that I actually really want to, because I know the benefit that it has. But for some reason, I just wouldn't. And at the time, I wish I had knowledge on CBT, and that's what I want to talk to you about. So welcome to today's episode. If you really want to understand how you can break that vicious cycle of setting goals and never seeing them through, I feel like this episode will really help you, because an understanding of CBT has helped me personally in my life, and it has helped so many of my clients in psychotherapy as well. So when we talk about CBT, we're talking about cognitive behavior therapy. So cognitive behavior therapy has what we know as the CBT triangle, which is also known as the cognitive triangle. So this is a core concept of cognitive behavior therapy that illustrates the interconnectedness of your thoughts, your feelings, and your behavior. So when we're looking at cognitive behavior therapy, this is a type of psychotherapy that it focuses on identifying and changing your negative thought patterns and behaviors. So it's a belief that your thoughts and your feelings and behaviors are interconnected. So by changing negative thoughts and behaviors, we can improve on our emotional well-being, on our overall mental health, and hence actually get the desired behavior that we seek. And that is what I would want each and every person to actually have some basic understanding of. So cognitive behavior therapy is a model that is used with so many different clients who have different challenges such as depression, anxiety, OCD, PTSD, substance use disorders, addiction, and other behavioral disorders and challenges. It's been very effective. I've seen it also work on the clients that I've been seeing over the past few years. So with cognitive behavior therapy, as I said, we use the CBT triangle. So your thoughts, a triangle has three sides, right? 3 sides and 3 angles. So we can imagine a triangle with 1 angle at the top and 2 at the bottom. The top one being the thoughts, the next one at the bottom being feelings, and the next one also at the same level as the feelings being your behavior. So basically what you think, what thoughts you have running in your mind have an impact and contribute to and lead to you feeling a certain type of way. And when you feel a certain type of way after thinking, you then decide to indulge in a certain behavior or not indulge in a behavior at all. So when you understand this, you're able to understand how your thoughts and how your feelings actually affect the behavior, and you're able to manipulate this. So when we look at understanding CBT and how it can work for you, you need to first start by identifying and challenging your thoughts. So this means identifying and challenging the negative thoughts. You can do this by being more aware of your thoughts. A lot of the times we are not aware of what we actually think. Sometimes we see ourselves doing something and behaving in a certain way, and we don't actually go down go back the path and see what led to that. But with cognitive behavior therapy, that is where it now comes in to say, okay, why are you behaving like this? Because you felt this way. Why did you feel this way? Because you thought in this way. So if you could start by identifying your thoughts, what is it that you actually think of? What thoughts or negative thoughts are holding you back? For example, somebody might think they have this thought that I can't handle stress without smoking. Like every single time I am stressed, I have to smoke. I have to take a cigarette. I have to take some weed. I have to maybe drink, I don't know, a shot of something really alcoholic and strong. That is a thought. But then cognitive restructuring is a core component of CBT, and it involves identifying and challenging those distorted thought patterns. Because you look at the thought that you have and ask yourself to say, is this thought actually a fact? Where did this thought come from? Where does it stem from? These thought patterns are referred to as cognitive distortions, and they can actually contribute to emotional distress and also maladaptive behaviors. So the goal of cognitive restructuring is to replace these negative thoughts with more balanced and realistic ones. So you tell yourself to say, I cannot handle stress without smoking. I cannot handle stress without eating the chocolate. Imagine you're trying to cut down on your calories and you have this thought that you can't handle stress. So you look back and actually question that thought. It's not a fact. So why do you have it? Then that way you can actually change it. I am stressed, but I can handle it in another alternative way. And that is what we do with cognitive restructuring. So for me, when it came to taking my medication, I had told myself that taking a pill every single day was so much work. But then I sat down and realized to say, no, but why did I actually think it's so much work? Because taking one pill takes less than a minute of my time. So a lot of the times you've created the problem in your thought process. And at no point do we ever say eating food every single day is so exhausting because we need to eat the food and we are able to do it every single time. So you just approach that thought with another more positive one. So it's easy to do this sometimes because you're not always aware of your thoughts by keeping a thought diary. And that's why I always encourage a lot of the clients I see, I always encourage everybody who is having such challenges to keep a thought diary, record your thoughts, record what you're actually thinking. That way you can go back to them and actually question them. The next thing you'd need to keep in mind is being able to name the feelings and recognize and label the emotions. So in that moment after you've had that thought, how does that thought make you feel? Do you feel worthless? Do you feel stressed? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel sad? It's so much easier to deal with something if you put a label on it and know what you're actually dealing with. So how do you manage those emotions? You understand the triggers. You understand what has actually led me to feeling this way. It's because of this particular thought. What has made me feel sad? What has made me feel really angry? What has made me feel frustrated? And all the other emotions and feelings you can think of. Identify the triggers, and that way you can easily cut out the triggers if it's through a thought or if it's something that has happened that has led you to think in a certain way and that has led you to now feel what it is you are feeling. So emotional regulation is also actually very important because after you're able to recognize and label your emotions, you understand how certain emotions trigger the unhealthy behaviors. And you're able to then develop the strategies you need to cope with these emotions in a much healthier way. Because a lot of the unhealthy habits we have, it's an attempt to cope with that trigger, that negative emotion that stemmed from a negative thought. So we have now looked at how our thoughts, which was the top of the triangle, lead to our emotions and our feelings. Now we can go and look at how the emotions and your feelings actually then lead to the behavior. So the third point would be you understanding how to modify your unhealthy behaviors. we do this through behavior activation. So behavior activation is a CBT technique that focuses on increasing engagement in positive and meaningful activities. So it's particularly effective in treating conditions such as depression, because you're not able to. A common sign of depression is you losing interest and not being able to engage in the activities you want to. So you might not be able to have the zeal to prepare the healthy meals you used to, or to be able to work out and go to the gym the way you used to. And we use a lot of behavioral activation with people with this challenge. So it helps you break the cycle of inactivity and the negative mood. So the idea is that by engaging in activities that bring pleasure or a sense of accomplishment, individuals can improve their mood and their overall well-being. So behavior activation is very, very key, because then you're able to understand what feelings led you to that particular behavior. You feel stressed at that point, and then you decided to walk to your closest shop and get a cigarette or get a bottle of alcohol to indulge in. And then it's very easy for you to actually realize, to say, okay, there's this particular behavior that stems from this feeling. So how can I find a way of actually replacing it? So once you understand how those three, which is your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors, are interconnected, it becomes so much easier for you to actually set goals, because then you know what is actually driving the behavior that you want to actually get rid of, or what is driving or reinforcing that particular behavior, or what is actually standing in the way of you attaining the behavior you want to. So after you understand this, it's very important to actually set realistic goals and monitor your progress. So a lot of the times we have goals that I want to, like, oh, my goal this year is just to stop smoking. My goal this year is to work out more. My goal this year is to actually make sure that I take my medication, is it for diabetes or hypertension or HIV, correctly and consistently, and adhere to it. But then you don't actually set smart goals. And I think when we think of smart goals, we're always thinking of work and school and a corporate world. But then for those who might not know, smart goals are just goals that are specific, that are measurable, they are achievable, and they are relevant, and they are also time bound. So SMART literally just stands for these things. The S is for specific, M is for measurable, A is for achievable, R is for relevant, and T is for time-bound goals. So it's very important for you to be able to sit down with your goals and see if they are actually perfect goals. Are they specific? Are they measurable? Can you actually achieve them? And it's important to also start small and start with realistic goals. Because sometimes when you set a goal in which you're only going to be able to see the results 2 years from now, the motivation to actually continue is so much harder. It's so much easier for you to set a goal and say, my goal is for me to be able to just skip rope every day for the next 10 days. You know, to say ultimately what you want to do is to be able to do that every single day for the rest of your life. But start small. Because what that does to you is that if you're able to achieve the smaller goals, it gives you more motivation to actually take a step into achieving the much larger goals, because you need that drive, you need the hormones to actually get into your head and convince you that it is possible because you've achieved something. Once you achieve something, it's so much easier for you to actually want to pursue more towards that goal. So lastly, the most important thing, even as you understand and know this and appreciate the CBT triangle, look at your thoughts and your emotions and your behaviors, you need to actually seek support and accountability. It's so important to have a community. It's so important to have somebody supporting you, somebody you can be accountable to, accountability partners. And if you can, I know the barriers that exist in seeking a coach or a therapist or a personal support, whatever form or package it is that they may come in. It's not always possible, but when it is, I always encourage and urge everybody to do so, because I believe psychotherapy it's not a it's not a treatment. A lot of people go for psychotherapy and will look for maybe a therapist or counselor who uses CBT modules in the hopes that they can fix them and treat them. But I am a strong believer that psychotherapy is more of a support than a treatment. I say this because you are the one who is in the driver's seat of your life, and what the person is doing is just supporting you as you drive to the destination that you're trying to get to, by helping you be more aware, by watching from the outside and opening you up to perspectives of your life, of your feelings, your emotions, your motivation that you might not have been able to actually see on yourself on your own, because you're the one in that situation. And that is what psychotherapy is. It's support. It's also providing you with the necessary tools that you might need after you've been aware of something. You've been made aware of yourself and your feelings and emotions and your actions. But what tools do you then have to actually make the change? Be it tools to actually communicate better, to make better decisions, to set your goals and prioritize them, by understanding your motivators, by understanding your traumas, your insecurities, and all these other things that come into play. And that is what psychotherapy does. So I really hope more people will now see it as more of a support than an actual treatment of a condition or of a challenge. It's basically, you are the one in charge. Like, you are the one in charge of getting to where you want to be. You are the one in charge of deciding, of rather engaging in that behavior and turning your life around to being a healthier, better version of yourself. As I have really talked about this so much, I just want to end by saying, remember that change takes a lot of time and effort, but with the right strategies and the right support, it's entirely achievable. So I'm hoping this will give you something to think about. I'm hoping this will encourage you to actually reflect on your thoughts, where they stem from, what might be contributing to them, the emotions that you have towards those thoughts, how you actually feel about them, and why those thoughts are wrong or right, and the emotions. And then now looking at the behavior that you choose to do, or the behavior that you're trying to cut down on. If you do need this support, you can always reach out through the show notes. There can be contacts to me, and I can also share other resources that might be necessary. I hope you have learned so much from this episode. Thank you for joining me till the very end. In the world of behavioral science, every ending is just the beginning of something new. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and stay tuned for more adventures in behavioral science as we continue our journey towards a healthier, more informed decision making. Until then, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay healthy. This is Tabo Lukato Hadonka signing off from Reclamation.
When I was making, I didn't sit down and say, okay, that I'm going to do. I was just trying things. So after I tried the whey products, after I tried different things, I was like, okay, why don't I try things that are going to help improve my mental health as well as my physical health?
Welcome to Reclamation, the podcast where conversations meet practical insights in you through the maze of behavioral science to empower health outcomes. With a passion bridging the gap between medicine, biology, and sociology, Tabo brings a unique perspective to every episode. Get ready to reclaim your understanding of health and behavior. This is Reclamation.
Welcome to another episode. This week's episode of Reclamation. I am so excited here because I have a lovely lady seated in front of me that I've seen in almost 2 years. It should be 2 years, and she's looking amazing. She's looking awesome. I actually wish this year so that you guys could actually see her. But yes, I have Namatama Luwinda, who is a medical licensed psychiatrist. She's a weight loss coach, and she's a mental health activist. She's amongst the most, she's probably the most influential mental health activist we have in Zambia. Welcome, Namatama. Welcome.
Thank you, Tabo. Those vibes. I'm even feeling shy.
Energy. Can you match my energy?
I'm failing to talk now.
So yeah, thank you for taking the time to come here. I know you've been so busy. I've been reaching out for a while and you're not feeling well. But yeah, I'm glad you took the time to come here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So you've been doing so well. Your body's looking good.
Thank you.
Yeah, so tell us about that.
Where do I start?
What happened? Because the last time I saw you, you were still just as pretty, but you were slightly bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, so I lost weight. Okay, so when I was bigger, I experienced a lot of body shaming. And many people think that's what motivated me to lose weight.
Oh, it isn't?
No.
So I thought so too. Okay.
No, not at all. The body shaming didn't bring anything positive to me, really. It didn't, because initially the weight gain came, I would say, due to depression. Well, that's what my psychiatrist said when I just started gaining weight in 2020. It was because of the depression. And so the body shaming just made the depression worse, which made the weight gain even worse. So my motivation for losing weight was the love that I developed for myself. Initially, I enjoyed being big, but then the more that people spoke about me being big, I started to hate being big. I can't really say I ever hated myself.
Yeah.
Because I still loved myself and still saw myself as beautiful, but I just didn't like being big.
Okay, so allow me to cut you off first. Because I know people are wondering when you say you gained weight because of depression. How? Like, what do you mean because of depression? As some of the people living with depression gain weight, they automatically gain weight. Like, how exactly did that lead to your weight gain?
So there are different factors that may lead to people with depression gaining weight. Although what we see most of the time is people losing weight, right? So when you are living with depression, especially if it's clinical depression, it can have an effect on your metabolism. It can have an effect on your appetite. So it can either make you eat way less or eat way more. And in other instances, the person may not even be eating that much, but because their metabolism is so slow, they end up gaining weight from even the little that they eat.
Okay, that makes sense. So what do you think happened to you? Were you eating more or was your metabolism just messed up?
I think it started with my metabolism being messed up, because initially I wasn't really like a foodie like that.
Yeah.
But then the more depressed I became, I started stress eating. And I would like anytime that I would be sad, I would go for milkshakes. And for me, that was therapeutic. And I even used to just...
It was an escape, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that those milkshakes were adding... Yes. So due to the weight gain, I started developing physical health complications. So I had borderline high cholesterol. I was even diagnosed with hyperthyroidism at some point. I had issues with pneumonia. I know it doesn't seem like there's a connection between pneumonia and weight gain, but then if you have more fat, right, or more body mass, your lungs have to work harder.
Look at you schooling us.
Oh, yes. So you have to know that, hey, she has a degree.
I know, the degree is working. Show us.
Yes. So your heart and your lungs have to work extra hard to produce more oxygen. So because I already had COVID pneumonia at some point, like it was terrible. Wow. And so after that, I had recurrent pneumonia about 5 times within a year, you can imagine. So I had all these issues. There even some other issues that I think if I mention all of them now,
we'll be here the whole day.
Yes.
Like, what was wrong with her?
Exactly. So I decided I love myself enough to get myself healthy. So for me, it wasn't much about the way I would look, but the way that my body would feel and function.
Okay. Nice. That was really nice. I had no idea. And I think a lot of us always thought it's because of what you went through on the Date My Family show and all that. But it's actually encouraging that you did it for yourself, which is very important. It's like intrinsic motivation. Eh?
Yes. When I tried to do it because of body shaming, it just got worse. And I would start my jogs, and in the middle of a jog, I get angry at a comment that someone passed, and like, I'm jogging just to impress that person.
Yeah.
I've stopped, and I'll stop jogging for like 2 weeks, and then I get back. But then when I said, this is for my own good, I was on with everything.
Okay. So I know we always say motivation really isn't enough to keep you going a lot of times, but would you say doing it for the right reasons helped, like the intrinsic motivation because you were the one who actually wanted it and not validation from other people? Did that help you stay consistent with the journey when you decided this is what you wanted to do now?
Definitely. Because as with all things, I mean, if you choose, for example, a university program for yourself, right? No matter how hard it is, you wake up to study. Yeah. But if it's your parents that chose it for you, you will not have the discipline to do it, to keep going. But then because I did it for myself, I actually enjoyed the process, and I'm still enjoying the process. I'm still making the summer body.
You ain't like nothing I thought we've reached.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Megan Thee Stallion vibes.
You're getting there. Wow. Okay, that's actually interesting to hear. But what other ways have you managed to stay consistent, especially because you were still dealing with your mental challenges, your mental illness, you still had your depression that you had to live with. So how have you managed to stay consistent? How did you manage to stay consistent? How much have you lost?
I don't remember the last time I checked my weight, but the last time I checked my weight, I think that was like a month ago, I was at 60 kgs and my starting weight was 87.
Over 20 kgs?
Yes.
Okay, so you need to tell us. So how did you stay?
Kgs.
Yeah. So how did you actually stay consistent even when, because I know when you're living with depression, sometimes you just do not feel like engaging in any activity, even if you actually know the benefit and understand it. That's why I always keep repeating and saying today, it's one thing to know, but it's like the gap between the knowledge and the action. How were you making sure? Because I know you needed to do a lot of lifestyle modification with the working out, the diet. How did you go about that whilst you managing your depression?
So on the aspect of health, right? The mental health aspect was also a huge factor. So when I was making my plan, it actually wasn't like I didn't sit down and say, okay, these are the things that I'm going to do. I was just trying different things. So after I tried the weight loss products, after I tried different things, I was like, okay, why don't I try things that are going to help improve my mental health as well as my physical health, Yeah. So I know that exercise is one of those things. So whenever I would feel lazy, I still have those days when I feel lazy. And I tell myself, you'll feel better after this. A jog a day keeps the depression away. Like the hardest part about anything is starting. So I always just get myself to start. And even when I skip, because I'm human, we are bound to fall short of the glory of God and ourselves anyway. So even on the days when I don't necessarily do what I'm supposed to do, I do a mini version of it. So if I was supposed to, say, jog for 30 minutes, I skip rope for 5 minutes so that I still feel
so it's an alternative. At least you didn't do nothing.
Yes. And so my body also has registered that, okay, she's exercised, that dopamine has spiked.
Yeah.
And yay, hooray, Tama.
Nice.
And also on the aspect of food, because that's something that I've also really used to help with my weight loss and getting more fit. Because I live alone, it's easy. I just decided to get rid of everything that wasn't good for me and just started buying more of what's good for me. So I would buy like vegetables in excess so that I'm forced to
actually cook them.
Vegetables.
Because it's the only thing you have in the house.
Yes.
Okay. Then what about for us who are not living alone and you have family? How would you advise us to go about that? Because that was at least, it was helping you. But then for other people who are living around people and they are having all this carbs and fatty foods and all that. Like, have you thought about that? Like, what ways would you?
Yes. So my weight loss program is actually tailored to Zambian lifestyle, Zambian diet. So it comes with a meal plan that includes food like nshima, your everyday food, right? The only difference is the way the food is portioned. So if you are eating with your family, right, and you have nshima, you should just portion your food accordingly. So 50% of your plate should be filled with vegetables. So if you're eating nshima, probably you'd need to cook 2 or 3 vegetables.
Yeah.
And then 30% protein and then 20% the carb. So the people in my group don't eat more than 1.5 lumps of nshima. But they still get full.
Okay.
With the veggies.
Okay.
You should try it.
I will.
Especially if it's roller meal. Roller ikutisa.
Oh, yeah. I have no problem with roller, so yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. So we're not getting rid of the shima because I see a lot of diet plans whereby you cut the carbs completely and...
So we don't really get rid of anything. The only thing I can say that we probably get rid of is sugar, but that's also optional. You can just reduce your sugar intake to, negligible amounts.
Yeah.
But we don't really get rid of anything. Carbs are also important. When you take out carbs, then you're causing imbalance to the body. And also, Zambians eat nshima almost every day, right? So if I'm to put them on a plan that excludes nshima,
it's going to be you're setting them up for failure.
Yes. And also, when they are done with the 6-week program, they'll go back to eating nshima and gain weight even more. So if I can just teach them how to eat what they already love.
So it's also about making it sustainable for the clients and for yourself as well.
Yes.
Okay. So earlier you mentioned that you discovered that you turned to foods such as milkshakes and others for comfort. How are you dealing with that now? Because I'm sure there are a lot of people who are having mental health challenges and would want to achieve a certain goal, but then what is standing in between them is the vice that they found themselves in that is providing them with comfort or a coping or an escape. So like the food, because you were turning to food for that. How did you, was it automatic? Like once you decided to say, I want to lose weight, did you stop wanting to have the milkshakes that you used to have? Like, how did that happen? How'd you go through that? What would you advise?
Okay. So when I decided to improve my health, one aspect that I did not leave out was my financial health. So how that helped me was I constantly think of ways in which I can get what I want without spending money or spending minimum money. So I make my own shakes at home.
That's really smart.
Yeah, thank you. So I mix like different fruits and actually make my own protein shakes at home. Yes, I can even give you a quick recipe. Like
come on, give us.
It's simple. So for the average Zambian, protein shakes are very expensive.
They are.
But what's in them is literally soya. So if you are not allergic to soya, you can get that soya porridge that they sell. The same cheap one. And then use milk and put your favorite fruits. I usually use banana as a base because it makes everything nice. I love bananas. So just mix those things. One thing that I also put in almost every shake is mawuyu. So the pulp from mawuyu, and also I boil the covers and extract that tea. So that helps to boost the immune system, and it also helps with weight loss. It also helps with suppressing your appetite and making your body warm. I think everybody needs a warm body.
I have so much to say about that. Zambians' obsession with warm bodies, the women. But we'll not talk about that. But makes your body warm, which is a plus, I guess.
It kills viruses.
Okay. What viruses?
Flu.
The influenza that almost took you out a few days ago.
Yes, and I killed it with mawuyu.
With the mawuyu.
Yes,
okay, that's actually good to know. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Noted. We'll try that out.
Yeah, like mawuyu has about 10 times as much vitamin C than oranges. It's Did you know that?
I didn't.
You do.
Wow, now I do. Glad you came.
Become a Mabuyu girl.
Where'd you find them?
The markets.
They are there? Okay, I think it's because I'm never looking for them. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, but they're all over in the markets. Yeah.
Okay. So, with your combined experience of actually wanting to lose, actually before we go there, after you have managed to lose weight, would you say you've reached your goal? Was this the ultimate goal? Like when you were beginning this journey, what was your vision of the end looking like?
I think I've actually gone beyond my goal because...
Wow.
Yeah, initially my goal was 65 kgs because that's what seemed healthy for my BMI and whatnot.
Yeah.
But then now I'm at 60 and I didn't expect myself to be this happy. I knew that I would be happy, but I've never been this happy in my life. Like I'm living my best life and wondering like, so there are people who are happy like this. Jesus. Because also, it's also been a spiritual journey. Initially, I would try to lose weight on my own. And at some point, I just gave up and said, Jesus, I know you care about my feelings. So please help me to get healthy. I know that, you are Jehovah Rapha. You are the healer. So even when I feel like I can't do it, please, you help me do it, So through this journey, I've also really gotten closer to God, especially because most of the people around me were body shamers. Like even the people that I thought I could run to were just not there. So it was an issue of, okay, it's just me and God, because even when I would say, guys, you see me next year, you won't be able to touch me. So, Paul be like, now, but they're the same ones who are now, green, can I take you out for lunch? No, I am on a weight loss program.
Yeah, speaking of that, how do you navigate that? Because it's easy when you have control over your environment at home, but then like dates, how are you making your orders of food? Because these are things that are around us and you've set a goal that you want to do this. At home, it's all good because you're in control. But then there are times where you go out, maybe you even visit another town for a weekend or the whole week. And how do you go about that when you're forced to actually have to order food and not be the one to prepare it?
It all goes down to portioning. So if I go to a restaurant, I'll order a huge salad and a normal meal on the side. So because I know I can't tell them, give me half of the chicken and stuff. So I just portion it like that. So usually for me, one meal turns out to be 2 meals because of the portion of the salad. By the time I'm getting to the other things, I'm already kind of full.
Nice. That's actually interesting to hear because I remember someone saying like expensive and fancy hotels, when they have buffets, they usually start with the salads deliberately as compared to the cheaper places, which would start with the actual carbs and the proteins. So it's like they start with the salads as you're going to serve. I don't know if you've observed it. I'm not sure. I've observed it twice. Like after I heard it, I'm like, okay, yeah, the more posh places do that. So it's like you're already full with your plate is already filled. So it's kind of working on your mind because you started with the salads before you got to find out what is there. And then you're now adding. So yeah, I guess that kind of helps in a way. So, and it's almost in line with what you're saying of having the bigger salads.
I'll be more observant now.
You should.
Interesting.
Maybe they lied to me, but
it's possible.
It's possible, right? Yeah. I observed it twice. I was like, oh, interesting to note.
They're expensive people. They can pay the psychologists.
Exactly. Yeah, like how do we go about... I guess it also saves money for them because salads are cheaper than... Right?
Yeah.
Than meat. Yeah, salads are cheaper than meat. So it's a win for them in the from the business point of view.
I think I should open a restaurant,
You have so many. You get an idea every single time people have conversation with you. Yes. It is. So looking at how you've been able to do your weight loss as a coach, you've managed to actually lose weight. You said you've gone you've gone beyond what you actually envisioned. And I'm wondering, have you learned anything during this process that helps you with staying consistent in other avenues, other ways of your life besides just the actual weight loss journey or the dieting and the exercise? Are there other ways that what you have learned you've been able to apply in your many other hats you wear? I know you wear so many hats. You are a counselor. So the consistency. I'm wondering if there are any transferable skills or insights you've gotten.
The biggest lessons that I have learned through my weight loss journey are financial lessons. Through my weight loss journey, I have found myself, I don't know if I can say making or multiplying more money. I'm able to save more money. I'm able to invest my money in, places that like long-term investments, short-term investments. Before, I wasn't the best person with money. I didn't really believe, I used to save, but just like, no more saving, piggy bank, 1 to 100 day challenges. But from seeing how my efforts with weight loss have compounded and given me results, I've been able to understand the principle of compounding. I used to have difficulties understanding money. That was the most difficult topic for me.
For a lot of us, actually. Yeah.
So now, because I have weight loss and fitness to look at, like, I started from here with all these issues and all this weight, but because I've been taking 30 minutes to jog, those 30 minutes probably don't even feel like a lot, but at the end of it, I'm seeing the results. So that made me start saving. Like, okay, if I save even just a small amount of money every day, so I cultivated a habit of saving every single day. And through that, I've been able to do things that I'm like, me?
Yeah, like, how did I do that? Even you are shocked. Yeah, a big person now, clearly.
I'm not ready.
Big people. That's really nice to know. Any other insights you have for us? Anything else? Anything you wish I had asked in this conversation that is important that you think somebody listening would benefit from?
You can only get better when you start to love yourself. And when I talk about self-love, I'm not talking about going to the spa or having a skincare routine. I'm talking about loving yourself enough to be disciplined. Discipline is also a form of self-love because you are investing in your future self. So with all things, you have to love yourself where you are now. So I started to love myself at 87 kgs.
Yeah.
And told myself I'm going to get this, I love this 87 kg body and I'm going to get it to 65 because I love it. And because I love it, I'm going to stress it until it does what I want it to do. Wow. So yeah, love yourself enough to put yourself through pain that's going to pay off later.
Wow. That's actually that's so wise.
I feel like I've just, hey guys.
You're powerful,
Wisdom will kill me one day.
It will. It actually will. I was thinking of asking something and it's just, I've lost my train of thought. Your wisdom just confused me. I swear your wisdom confused me. I hope you're going to cut that out. Like I really had something in mind. Anyway, how many more minutes? Okay, so that's very, very insightful. And if somebody's out there listening to you and saying, okay, she just has so much to give and they want to tap into that, how do they get a hold of you?
Okay, so my socials, Namatama Luwinda. Wherever you just see Namatama, mental health, you just type in my name, something mental health will come. I don't think we are many Namatama Luwinda.
Nah.
Maybe the other ones are doing other things. Also, my number is 0777 003 153. So if you would like to join the weight loss, like my weight loss program is actually very affordable. And that was the point. Like I wanted to give Zambians an affordable option.
We have no excuse now.
Yes. So for 100 kwacha, you have unlimited coaching. You get a weight loss guide and you get a meal plan. And also you get mental health coaching.
Yeah.
Yes, because
that is very important.
yes. So every day we do an exercise that helps to improve our mental health as well in just 100 kwacha.
That really sounds like a bargain. And thank you for doing that, because I know it takes a lot to take from your time and your effort, your mental bundles, to actually pour into other people. I'm so happy that you're doing this and making a change in people's lives.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having spare the time to come here.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. So yeah, that was Namatama Luvinda. Shared so much information on how she's able to stay consistent in her weight loss journey, how she's able to portion her foods in order to achieve the goals that she actually wants to do. Her socials will be shared on the podcast description, show notes. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining me till the very end. In the world of behavioral science, every ending is just the beginning of something new. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and stay tuned for more adventures in behavioral science as we continue our journey towards a healthier, more informed decision making. Until then, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay healthy. This is Tabo Lukato Hadunka signing off from Reclamation.
Up, that's when you're hearing, oh, marijuana relaxes your nerves. And then there was that movie with Wiz Khalifa and Snoop Dogg, and they were smoking weed, and they were so zen. And I was like, I want to feel that. I want to feel how they're feeling.
Welcome to Reclamation, a podcast where conversations meet practical insight in you through the maze of science to empower better health outcomes. With a passion for bridging the gap between medicine, psychology, sociology, Tabo brings a unique perspective episode. Get ready, claim your understanding of health and behavior. This is Reclamation.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Reclamation. On today's episode, we have a special guest. Special because she's somebody so dear in my heart. She's somebody I've known for years. Like, since when did we meet?
24 years ago
Yeah,
now?
I think it's been 24 years. So she's someone I know, someone up with, someone I've seen turn into this amazing and beautiful woman that she is. And she's gone through so much in life, so much that I'm hoping a lot of us can learn from and be inspired by her resilience and how she's overcome a lot of what life has thrown to her. She's Sisi. She's a good friend of mine. She was actually the one person who was my cheerleader when I had this idea of this podcast. So welcome to Reclamation, Sisi.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. Mm-hmm. Look at you, the podcast.
Finally.
Beautiful.
Yeah, because the
I'm
last
so
time
proud
I
of
was
you.
on your podcast.
Yes. And you didn't even know that you do this. And I'm just so proud of what you've accomplished and what you're doing. It's really beautiful to see.
Thank you. Like, you were part of the inspiration with your podcast. It's like, if Sisi can do it, I can do it too.
Oh, I'm humbled.
Yeah, so she's a marketing professional. She's a mental health activist. She's very passionate about human behavior. And she has a lived experience that has led to her passion and wanting to see other people do better. Can you tell us about that? Like, because I remember when we met years later after going some time without having been in contact, she shared her passion for mental health and a little bit about her story. So I'd like other people to understand, to say, what led to you? Why mental health? Why do you care so much about it?
Okay. Hello, everybody. Cici, as you have introduced. So actually, I only recently became very vocal about it. I always did it in the background. But over the past few months, I have seen how there's a gap in the mental health space. And a lot of us are struggling with demons that we face silently. And I think that is also how I came about with Behind Closed Doors, because I wanted to talk about things that we're hiding behind closed doors. So how did mental health come about? From as early as I can remember, I think 14, I would always be overcome with this overwhelming sadness, right? And I never really understood what it was. And obviously you can't share to anyone to say, oh, I'm sad, because everybody gets sad. And then obviously I attributed it to maybe so much that had been going on in my life. I have been surrounded by a lot of loss and a lot of trauma. I think that is what kind of started all of that, right?
Yeah.
By the time I was 15, 16, I was having blackouts. I was not eating. I was not sleeping. All I did was just rot. And it was so bad, so much that I had to be pulled out of school because of that. And this is something I've never shared with anybody, huh? I had to be pulled out of school for a year. And I was just rotting away. And this is when I discovered marijuana. So there was somebody who was living in our area who would always give me, some joints. And that is the only way I would, talk to people, smile, do all this other stuff.
So, hold up. How did you get to discovering the marijuana part? Like, how did you, the first time that is, do you remember what led you to think, let me try this out?
I think
did you know that it would make you feel better? Were you hoping? Did you search for some things that didn't work and marijuana was one of those you bumped into?
To be honest, I think it was just around the time, as a teenager, you're trying to, you're being woke. Like, we're trying alcohol, and I wasn't really a fan of alcohol. I tried that. It didn't work out for me. I think I would throw up all the time. So I knew that, okay, I am not an alcohol person. And, when you're growing up, that's when you're hearing, oh, marijuana relaxes your nerves. And then there was that movie with Wiz Khalifa and Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
And they were smoking weed. And they were so zen.
It looked cool.
It looked really... And I was like...
want that.
I want to feel that. I don't think it was about, I want to be cool. It was, I want to feel how they're feeling. Because the demons that I was fighting daily in my mind... I just wanted some silence. So when somebody had that and I had the opportunity to try it and in fact felt how I saw it on TV, it was beautiful. And this is something I did privately. For the most part, my mom traveled a lot.
Okay.
So it was not easy for her to tell that something's happening with my kid is starting to do drugs or any of that, right? So I started the marijuana. Whenever I'd feel some type of way, and then now it became to a point where I'm smoking maybe 4 to 6 joints in a day. If I don't smoke, I'll not sleep. If I don't smoke, I will not eat. I will not,
So you
I would not function.
Dependent.
Yes, I became very dependent. And then it got to a point where I don't feel anything else, just the high. And I started self-harming because I'd want to feel a different pain from what I'm struggling with. So I'd harm myself, slit my wrists, just so I could feel a bit alive. And now I started losing time because of that. I don't know if it was because of the marijuana or I really don't know, but I'd have blackouts. And so my mom sent me to the hospital to get my blood tested because maybe you have low sugar or something.
Yeah.
And when I got there, they tested everything was okay. And the doctor, spoke to me for a little bit, trying to understand when all this started, how I feel around just before I black out or after. And he told me that, what, your case needs a psychiatrist because it seems you have chronic depression and anxiety. So, but how he told me, and now that I think about it, I'm like, it could have broken me further because he said, if you continue down this path, you will die. And so as a teenager, as a 16-year-old, all I've heard is, I'm going to die.
So that freaked you out.
So I go home and I'm telling my mom, okay, so I'm going to die because I have something called anxiety and depression. And the grace that this woman showed, I'm very thankful to this day, because an African parent being told that your kid has a mental illness is really, nobody wants to have a kid.
That was like 10 years, over 10 years ago.
That was over 10 years ago. Nobody wants to have a kid who's broken. So, I go to the psychiatrist and they do all the assessment. And yes, that is what I have. So they're giving me all these pills, antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, sleeping pills.
Yeah.
So I'm on a cocktail, right, of all these meds. And so I have to now work the meds and the marijuana, because I'm still abusing that, right? And now it means
Did your doctors know you were using?
No, nobody. Till this day, till now in the podcast.
This you don't know.
Nobody knows. So the medication did not work. They instead numbed me, because maybe the chemistry with the marijuana, or maybe my body was not working with it. Because also you need to realize that at that time, over 10 years ago, that was trial and error.
Yeah.
Mental health wasn't something that,
It's just something we're still
right now, exactly. But at least where we are at now, it's much better to manage.
We've
made progress in that area. But then it was really try and error. So, if this didn't work, we'll try this next thing. If that didn't work, we'll try this. So I had a series of different medications on and off, So...
But the marijuana was still there.
The marijuana was
still the constant.
It was the constant.
It was giving relief, would you say?
It was giving relief. It was giving zen. It was giving peace.
Yeah.
And at some point, I thought to myself, I haven't been to school in over a year, and I have to pretend with my age mates.
Yeah.
I would, when it's 16:30, I'd wear my uniform and come outside so that people be like, oh, she's from school. And I think also having to keep up that took a toll on me, because also I was from a very small town where if I go to a social worker, everybody's going to know that, John Van's child has a mental disease. And so I stopped going there altogether. And I had now to start pretending to say I'm fine. And I had to pretend even in my home to my parents to say I'm healed.
Okay.
So I'm praying, God is good. I'm healed. He saved me. And that just got worse. I think it's been an on and off thing from then to now in recent time, where I'm old enough to say, you know what, I can't rely on my parents to take care of me anymore because I'm an adult now. So I have to make the informed decision. I have to stand to say, this is not the life I want for myself anymore. So the therapist that I dreaded, I started going. And it was so bad that now in my adult years, living alone, I would just rot in my home and nobody knows. I just shut from the outside world. I don't eat. I don't bathe. I don't sleep. I just cry. And you're living like a grouch. And it took so much to say, I can't do this anymore. Because then you have suicidal thoughts and now you attempt suicide. And then God is faithful. By some miracle, you survive, right? And then after that, I said to myself, I can't do this anymore. I need to be better. No one is coming to save me. I have to save myself. Yeah. And so I start the work. I see the therapist. I tried yoga. Yoga was nice, but that didn't last. I think I was lazy. I'm a very lazy person. I'm a very lazy person. And at some point I was like, I can't do this anymore.
How long did you try the yoga for?
I think close to 6 months, hey?
Okay. But did you say during that 6 months, how was your marijuana intake?
At that point, so after the attempted suicide, right, I stopped because then I said I need to change my life.
Okay.
So I changed my apartment. I just changed everything.
Yeah, so how exactly did you manage to stop, since it's something that you had been doing for some time?
It was hard. I will not lie. It was really hard. And also having to do it in secret was also the hardest thing, because when I'm around, I mean, I've known you 24 years and you didn't know this.
Yeah.
So I have to be a person who doesn't smoke, but it's something that I do so much. And it started with reducing the number of times I do it in a day and trying to substitute. And then I substituted it with buying heels.
Okay.
I'm really obsessed with shoes.
Yes, you are. I've seen your shoe rack. Makes sense.
Every time I'd be sad, I'd go to the mall and get a pair of heels. And then, that high. But then also, that was getting too obsessive. I mean, you've seen my shoe rack. It's not healthy. So I needed to find something to replace the marijuana, which I replaced with the heels, to replace the heels. So I started yoga.
Okay.
So the yoga, it worked for a few months, but I didn't have the commitment for it. And so I relapsed again. And
Relapse to the heels or to the marijuana?
I just relapsed to depression, to rotting.
Yeah.
So I was rotting away. I was not taking care of myself.
Were you getting any help?
At the time, no.
Okay.
And it was so bad that I just didn't see the meaning of being alive. At some point, I said a prayer to God and I said, you know what? Just take my life now. I tried it myself. It didn't work out.
Yeah.
Maybe if you do it, call me back, And I think after that prayer, I felt how sad that was, because you shouldn't get to a place where you're praying to die,
Yeah.
It was at that point that I said, I need help. And I opened up to my partner at the time and I said, okay, this is something I'm struggling with. This is something that I'm dealing with. And this is something that I have been dealing with for a very long time. And I need help. And he gave me grace. We tried to go to Chainama. And, but then still I had that thing of, how are people going to see me that I was locked in a mental institution, right? There's so much stigma around that. There's so much stigma around that. So I found a new therapist. Yeah. We started doing the work. We started the medications. And it did work. It started to work. And then because I struggled so much, I decided there could be somebody who is walking this path that I'm walking. Let me speak about it. And that is how I began to speak about mental health. But then in a third person.
Yeah.
I spoke about it in the third person. I started the podcast.
Yeah.
And we had all these guests talking about different things. And eventually, I think one time, you and I actually had a conversation. And you're telling me that, Cece, you need to own your story. And you're telling me a story about you.
Oh, yeah.
We're actually having a podcast about you. Yeah. And you're like, you need to own your story because then nobody can use it against you. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm going to own my story. And I went on social media and just posted and said, okay, I'm dealing with this.
I saw that. It was just so beautiful and inspiring. I saw Africana Woman post about it on her blog. And I'm like...
I was so humbled and also really grateful for the grace and support that I got from my different communities, friends, and my partner who also had been very supportive throughout the journey. And now I'm trying to be a person that other people can see and say, okay, that person has suffered, is still suffering, is still struggling, because unfortunately it doesn't end.
Yeah.
It never goes away. But if we can have all these little things that help us slowly do better, live with it, and, know our triggers and all that, for me, it's a plus. Even if it's just one person who I impact, for me, it's a plus.
Wow. That's so inspiring. It's a beautiful story. I hate that you had to go through that, and I'm sorry you had to go through that, but I like how you have managed to get into the battlefield and fight and try to make a change in other people's life. And I've just realized just how a lot of the times we see people, young people, indulging in unhealthy habits. We see people indulging in alcohol, in smoking, the marijuana, tobacco, and different other vices. And we look at it from the outside and we judge. And it doesn't make sense for us because we look at them and we're wondering to say, but they know the effects of what they are doing, but why aren't they actually stopping? Like, for us, it's a button. We think it's a button that you can just snap and then the person should automatically snap out of it and stop. So it really just shows, you sharing your story shows how there's just so much that influences our behavior and our choice. And I'm looking at how you chose to indulge in marijuana at the time because you needed something. You desperately needed something, and that's what was available. And you did that for years and it helped you. So I'm wondering, do you have anything you would say to, like, maybe a parent or family or friends who are looking at somebody indulging in something like marijuana or any unhealthy vice?
What you said is actually very true, because when you're looking from the outside, you don't know what a person is going through. Sometimes quite all right, it's for, this is the wave now. Yeah. Everybody's doing it, so let me do it as well. But then sometimes there's something deeper. And the problem is people, before you understand, you judge first, right? Yeah. And you'd be so quick to say, this is so bad for your health. Hey, you're going to die. Yeah. All that stuff. Yeah. And I think I have gotten to a place where I meet people with grace because I don't know what demons you're facing, what demons you're battling with. And I think we need to find ways to sensitize people without stigmatizing them. And I think this would play well with the behavioral science, because in the behavioral science, you have habits that counter the vices, right? In a way that is graceful, where you don't have to make a person feel bad than they already do. Yeah. Because when I stopped cutting myself, when I stopped self-harming, I then had to walk around with a rubber band my therapist told me that instead of literally making yourself bleed, maybe try to...
So it snaps and...
Exactly. So it's not the best thing, but it's the next best thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You see? And even as they speak to me, they're not judging to say, but why are you cutting yourself? You're a big person. Yeah. Don't do that, because you never know what someone is struggling with. But if we could find... And I think also it starts with people being open with these conversations. Yeah. It starts with these conversations, which are so uncomfortable, being had.
And I'm so proud of you for sharing and starting this conversation with your story. Like it's you being vulnerable to the world, and hopefully we can tap into that and learn so much. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we're on the right path, I guess.
Yes, I think we're starting to get there. And I've seen that there's a lot of people now who are advocating for mental health. But then there's still people who are still stigmatizing, which is very shocking. But then also I have come to realize that people hide what's inside by, mocking other things. Because you'd find, I was also a person... I struggled with depression for over 10 years, right? Yeah. But I'd also be like, I would never see a shrink.
Yeah, because I get that.
It costs me zero to say, it is what it is, right?
It's the same thing with even Chainama. Like, people know to say, you can see a therapist there, but then the thought of, okay, I drop off and I walk to Chainama, how is everybody going to...
That's the thing. So I had to stop being a hypocrite first. So all of us have to stop being hypocrites first if we want to see the change, because we can't see change if we're not doing something ourselves.
Yeah.
You know that thing for, I'm starting with the man in the mirror? You can't tell your neighbor before you fix yourself.
Yeah.
So if we're not having these conversations, if we're not spreading the awareness, if we're not educating people, because other people genuinely just don't understand.
True.
Others, it's really just negligence. You know what I mean? So if we're not starting these conversations, educating people, spreading awareness, then we're not going anywhere.
Wow. This has been a lovely conversation. It's just, I'm hoping even for the listeners, they realize just how much a lot of our emotions, a lot of things unseen really play a role in what we see on the outside, the behaviors we look at and judge, and the behaviors, the people we call junkies.
Yeah.
There's just so much more, and sometimes it's not just about the educating of the people, as I always say, to say you can't really keep telling somebody to say this is bad, because the help they need might not be them knowing the negative of what they're indulging in, but it might be much deeper than that. So I'm happy you brought this. It's been an insightful conversation. It's lovely. Thank you so much for sharing this story on Reclamation.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, so any last words?
You know, it's funny because I tell other people
That, and then now you're like, what am I
I think meet people with grace. Because you never know what people are dealing with and what people are constantly having to battle with. So no matter how you feel you would have acted differently in a situation, meet people with grace.
Wow. That's powerful. That's lovely. She says meet people with grace. I hope this week we will try to look at the people we've been looking at and judging and try to extend some grace towards them, even as we form a picture of who we think they are or might be. That's a very powerful thing. Thank you so much for that, Chonga. Thank you so much,
I'm so happy
Cece.
for being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So that was Cece. She shared her story of how mental health affected her behavior, how she ended up taking marijuana, and how that was an escape from the depression that she was living with and that she has been living with. And it's been a very insightful conversation. And I think it leaves us with so much to reflect on. So much. We all have people who have behaviors we don't really understand. We're trying to make sense of. We probably even shout at them and judge them for that and don't understand why they are doing it. But maybe this is the time to question if there might be some hidden force behind why they are doing what they are doing. It could also be with you as an individual sometimes. You might find yourself indulging in certain substances or certain behavior that you really want to get rid of, but haven't really understood why you do it in the first place. So this could be a moment to reflect on that. So yeah, that's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening. Please do subscribe, share it with somebody who might be inspired by this lovely story. Thank you for joining me till the very end. In the world of behavioral science, every ending is just the beginning of something new. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and stay tuned for more adventures in behavioral science as we continue our journey towards a healthier, more informed decision making. Until then, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay healthy. This is Tabo Lukato Hadonka signing off from Reclamation.
Outdoor experiences, and this is based off of experience and seeing the impact as well it's had on my clients. I actually tend to prefer outdoors because, like I said, there's the sun, there's the trees, the fresh air. I've seen that the overall benefits for outdoor Pilates is actually pretty good because you're incorporating the vitamin D, for instance.
Welcome to Reclamation, the podcast where conversations meet practical insights, guiding you through the maze of behavioral science to empower better public health outcomes. With a passion for bridging the gap between medicine, psychology, and sociology, Tabo brings a unique perspective to every episode. Get ready to reclaim your understanding of health and behavior. This is Reclamation.
Welcome to another episode of Reclamation. So I'm actually excited today because we have our very first guest on the show. Today, we have a special guest who has made a remarkable transition from the legal world to the wellness industry. Hey? So please welcome Mulenga Kapotre, a former lawyer who now runs a successful Pilates class in Zambia. Welcome to the show, Mulenga.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited to get into nice chats about wellness and Pilates.
I'm so happy you are here because, you know, I've been reaching out to you since, what was it, last month, 2 months ago?
Maybe
and I'm like,
2 months.
Yes.
Yeah, you were relentless, but I'm so glad you were.
I'm so happy you made the time to come through. I know how busy you are.
No, thank you so much for having me, and hello, everybody.
So, Mulenga, your journey from being a lawyer to a Pilates instructor it's inspiring. It's ballsy, as I always say. So can you share with us how that happened? What motivated you to make this career change, I guess? Is it a career change?
I guess it could count as a career change, and it's definitely different. It's something I didn't see coming. Yeah. So I'm still a lawyer. I still consider myself a lawyer. I still have my law degree, but my transition, I'll give a bit of a brief background. Sure. So I was admitted to the Zambian bar in 2019, and I spent 5 years in practice. Wow. I loved practicing law. It was amazing, but it was also a very stressful time for me. I handled the stress well, but I noticed that my default state was usually anxiety, stress, fatigue. So during that time, I then started to look for ways to self-care, ways to take care of my mind, ways to take care of my body, especially ways that were convenient, things I could easily do. I had tried gym for a bit, but I was never really consistent with gym. So I wanted something I could easily do from home. And that's how I stumbled upon Pilates. I bought a yoga mat and I was able to do the workouts in the comfort of my home, in my living room or outside. And one thing I noticed, I was doing it mainly for my body and for the self-care, but I didn't expect how it would actually affect my mental well-being. During that time, during the times when I'd have my workouts, I was able to just zone out and find a nice Zen place. It helped with my breathing, which was then tied to a lot of mental clarity. It was tied into calming my nervous system, releasing that stress and anxiety. So it was a lot of benefits, really, that, it was all-encompassing. So I was working on my body, toning, shaping and strengthening my body, but at the same time finding that mental clarity and releasing the stress when I needed to. It just became my happy place. So at first I was doing it for myself, but as I got confident, I started posting videos about it. I then started receiving messages from people saying they had also started their Pilates journey, and it was just nice to sort of form that community. At this time, I still wasn't thinking of teaching, not yet, but slowly started feeling inclined into, instructing. And after 2 years or so of doing the workouts by myself in my living room, I then considered the Pilates certification and instructing, and that's how that started. So at this time, I still wasn't sure whether I'd do it full time. So I was still pursuing my legal career and then doing Pilates part-time. But by January this year, I'd made that decision and I left the corporate world.
Wow.
So that is how Lukato Pilates came about. And no regrets. So happy.
Wow. That's actually, even I didn't know that. But thank you for sharing that. So I noticed you mentioned how you were not consistent with the gym, but then you found a way of doing it within your home. How did you navigate that with the environment? What made you consistent with doing that at home, since you found something that works for you at home? How exactly did you go about that, ensuring that it keeps working for you at home?
Yeah. So I think one thing that was key for me was convenience. Because usually when you put yourself through a lot of pressure, or, getting up from home, getting in your car, then taking that drive to the gym, it's not always convenient.
It isn't.
I mean, I'm speaking for myself. There's people that find
many
it
of us,
convenient,
me too.
but speaking for myself, that was not convenient. But just knowing I could get out from bed and take a few steps to my living room, or step outside, and it's a nice, beautiful morning, the sun is shining. It was just that convenience, I think, that allowed me to stay consistent. And there was also something about being in the comfort of my home that was very relaxing. When you're going to the gym, for instance, you're around other people, so you might be conscious of the people around you, or you're not necessarily very comfortable yet. So I was in the comfort of my home, and that allowed me to just be calm about it. And so I think the convenience and the comfort is what allowed me to be consistent. And then with the outdoors, there's just something about being outdoors as well that was then adding on to the benefits I was deriving from my workouts. Be it the sun with the vitamin D, it just feels really good to be outside.
The trees, the green grass,
the fresh air. So all those little things just allowed me to be consistent, and also knowing the benefits, like knowing how I was feeling after a workout. If I woke up a certain day and I was low, I knew that as soon as I worked out, or as soon as I stepped outside and did my practice, I would then feel better. So that's what allowed me to be consistent.
Okay. So you have mentioned that you sometimes do it indoors or outdoors.
Yes.
How does the environment impact that? Like, how do you think other people can maybe modify their environments to encourage that consistency sometimes? Because I'm sure despite you being able to do it at home, there might be days when you're not really up to it, despite you knowing the benefits. Because I always keep saying it's one thing to know, but actually doing, like...
True.
So how have you played around with that?
Yeah.
How can others do it as well?
True. So I think with the outdoor experiences, and this is based off of experience and seeing the impact as well it's had on my clients. I actually tend to prefer outdoors because, like I said, there's the sun, there's the trees, the fresh air. I've seen that the overall benefits for outdoor Pilates is actually pretty good because you're incorporating the vitamin D, for instance, the fresh air, and there's that nice release of the endorphins, not just from the workouts, but from the environment supporting your practice. It's also more grounding to be outside. Being out in nature also brings out that sense of awe. It just feels good. So I think the overall benefits I've noticed, well, both are good, but I prefer outdoors because you have that extra support from the environment, which also assists again with the mental well-being. There's just something about being outside on a beautiful day that just brings this nice sense of clarity as well. So I think switching up the environments does assist. You can't always be outdoors. Sometimes the weather
doesn't
sucks,
allow.
or maybe you're in you live somewhere where maybe the outdoors isn't very calming, and so indoors is also good. But just switching it up
every now and
maybe
then.
coming for a Lukato Pilates class because we do it outside at Lukato Beauty Center, which is a beautiful spa, or coming for one of our retreats. That would be a nice way to just switch it up. So both are good, but I think the environment provides that extra support when you're outside.
It actually does because, when I actually just found you and noticed you started doing this, a lot of your videos would be you in the grass outside. And it's just looking so pretty because I'm looking on Instagram and scrolling and I'm like, oh, it looks fancy. Like it's encouraging to say, okay, maybe I should actually sign up for a class. So you're absolutely right. The environment really does help keep you in check.
It does. It really does.
So what are some of the benefits you've noticed from your clients? Because I know you've been running a class for some months now.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are some of the benefits or the testimonies you've gotten from your clients?
Okay. So the testimonies have actually been quite overwhelming.
Yeah.
And we've recently started a series where we're recording some of our clients, and they're just explaining the benefits that Pilates has had for them. I also received testimonials, which we also put on our social media.
Yeah.
So I'll start with the body. Obviously, it tones and strengthens your body. So I've received reviews where clients are feeling that their bodies are more toned.
Yeah.
Some who were pursuing a weight loss journey have been able to lose weight.
Nice.
Everyone is looking for different benefits, obviously. And going onto the mind, it's been quite grounding for, I was going to say most of them, but actually all of them, because it's your moment to just zone out and be mindful, taking a moment to breathe, and at the same time, you're also working out. So there's a lot of mental clarity that comes with that. Most of my clients have high stress jobs. So during that time, they're able to just release that stress and release whatever fatigue they're feeling. There's some people that have been able to sleep better because, yes, there are certain hormones that are released, and it just brings also that sense of calmness that helps facilitate better sleep. So, yes, there's people that maybe were battling with low emotions or depression, and this has just helped them find that sense of balance and purpose that grounds them and just helps them feel better. And there's also something about community. So with the group classes, you're able to work out with like-minded people. And there's that nice emotional support and sense of community and purpose that comes with that. So yeah, overall, lots of benefits for the mind, for the body, for the soul. It's so beautiful, honestly.
Yeah, so from what I'm getting, Pilates seems to be a holistic practice.
Yes.
Like it benefits both the body and the mind.
Yes, it's certainly a holistic practice. And what we do is when we're starting the sessions, we start with breathing and mindfulness. So the first 5 minutes is taking a moment to just relaxing your body, relaxing your mind, breathing, which is really, really good as well to get your body ready for the session, but also to ensure your mind is fully present in the moment. Our minds love to multitask. We're either dwelling in the past or planning ahead, worrying and anxious. We're in the future already. So during those first 5 minutes, we want to ensure everyone's just in the present moment. We then have the session. And at the end, again, some breathing, and we finish off with gratitude and self-love, which is another 5-minute practice where you're just taking a moment to focus on what you're grateful for that particular day, and also finishing off with some self-love, saying something kind and loving to yourself. And that is so good for the mind as well.
Wow.
You know, especially with the self-love one, saying something kind and loving to yourself. Our minds are usually so quick to self-criticize, or we beat ourselves down, or we're always waiting for other people to show us love. But in that moment, you're taking that power back, which is so good for your mental well-being as well. So it's definitely a holistic practice.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. But I'm guessing for you to be able to actually see the benefits, you would have to be quite consistent.
Yes.
Like, are there any tips you give to your clients that you'd like to share, one or two, or how you stay consistent? Because do you set an alarm? Do you do it every day? Do you have times of the days when you do it and prefer other times? Like, how do you make sure? Because I know you wear so many hats because you're also doing tennis now.
Yes.
So it's like, how do you balance all that, making sure you stay consistent with your Pilates while also doing everything else in your life?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll speak for myself first and then go into the clients. So before, when I was juggling my job and the Pilates, not necessarily, I wasn't teaching yet, but when I was just doing the classes and practicing, the best time for me was after work. In the evenings, I would get home, change from my work clothes and immediately go into my workout clothes and just find a class. So that day, if I was not in the mood to really work out, I'd find the shortest class on YouTube. And, you know, it was better than doing nothing at all. So I'd find maybe a 15-minute class and work out, and I would immediately feel better. So keeping that feeling in mind, even on the days when you're not in the mood, really does help. Of course, there were days when I felt that way and I just fell off the wagon. But again, even when you fall off, showing yourself that grace, taking a moment, and then getting back on. So evenings were the best times for me. On weekends, I'll then do it in the mornings. Yes. And then now that I no longer have my 9 to 5, now that I'm teaching, actually, it's been a bit hard to set time just to practice and not necessarily setting time to set the classes. Because now it's like I'm constantly working out. So when I'm doing it with the clients, I feel like I'm working out. But I'm now trying to be intentional about actually scheduling like a full class for myself. Not necessarily setting a class or writing down my flows. I want to set time for myself to just do a full Pilates session. So for me, that now looks like doing it at least 3 times a week. Which feels like a lot because, again, when I'm doing it with the clients, it's a workout altogether. But I think I'll manage and I'll get back to you guys on that one. But in terms of juggling, like you said, I'm also doing tennis, which helps me stay fit. I've signed up with an academy, so that helps me stay consistent, knowing that I will do tennis, let's say, every Wednesday, and there's a coach too.
You do tennis once a week?
Yes, once a week for now. Once a week. I'm hoping to make it 2, but I have a coach or coaches under the academy. It's called Atlas that help me stay consistent. So I think having a coach and having, again, like if you come for Lukato Pilates, I'll be there to help keep you accountable. So having someone that keeps you accountable is a big one. Either a friend or your instructor or coach that helps you stay consistent. So that's with me. And with my clients as well, I come in to help them stay consistent as their accountability partner. But I actually have to give it to my clients. They are generally just consistent even without me. They're usually people that are very dedicated and committed to their wellness journey. I guess because the benefits are that good. Yes, because the benefits are that clear. So,
wow. Yeah. You know, I'm so inspired right now because fitness is something I have been pushing for so long. It's just so hard. And here you are talking about doing your Pilates 3 times, doing tennis and wanting to add another day. And I'm like, how does your body feel? So is this for everybody? Like Pilates, like somebody like me who's lived a sedentary lifestyle, I would say, and I'm trying to get into it. Are your classes for everybody? Please tell us who your classes are for.
My classes are for everybody. But I would say my target market is people that are trying to transform their lives, take a moment from the hustle and bustle, taking a moment to just take control, take charge again of their minds, their bodies, their souls. You're going to strengthen your mind, strengthen your body in the process as well. Really, it's for everybody. It's for everybody. So come through.
So I won't have too much pressure, eh?
No.
The stretches.
No. And honestly, I suppose you won't know till you actually try a class.
Yeah, true.
But once you come for a class, you will know that it is certainly for you. It is, and you will not regret it.
Okay. Well, so I guess consistency is key when trying to maintain a healthy behavior. I mean, you have an amazing body. Your skin is glowing. What other things are you doing to help keep healthy? Like food, juice. I saw recently that you partnered with some juice.
Yes, Z's Juice Bar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that? Is that helping you?
Yes, certainly. Diet is a big one, and that's something I'm still working on, and I'm hoping as the year goes on, to work with some nutritionists as well, just to help me, because I actually do have a bit of poor eating habits. But some of my clients work with nutritionists. One of my clients is actually a nutritionist.
Nice.
So they're able to give advice on diet that will facilitate mental health and also help you with your weight goals, if you have any, and just your overall well-being.
Yeah.
So I'm still working on that one. Actually, I can't speak too much on the diet one because it's something I'm still figuring out. And I'm sure a lot of people will relate as well.
Yeah.
Just finding what works for you. But I do have friends that really do incorporate like proper nutrition diet, and I've seen how amazing that has worked out for them, especially incorporating that with the workouts. It's a holistic approach to your mental wellness, and it's beautiful to watch, and I want that for myself as well, actually. So I'm also still learning, still growing. And the good thing about what I'm doing as well is the collaborations that come with it, like you said, with the Z's Wellness Bar. It's just beautiful to see different ways that, you know, like-minded people can come together and work together. So excited to see where that goes. There's other juice bars as well, like Real Raw, that I can't wait to work with.
Nice.
So we'll see. On the skin side of it, I have a really good friend that has a skin business and a spa. Yeah. So she's the one that really puts us on. It's just a holistic thing.
It really
is, because it all comes into the wellness thing. When your skin is healthy, you feel better as well and more confident. When your body is whatever way you want it to be, whatever wellness goal or body goal you have for yourself, when you reach that goal as well, it brings a sudden boost of confidence. And also the journey to those goals, just giving yourself grace through each period. It doesn't mean when you haven't yet reached your skin goals or your body goals, it doesn't mean that, you know, you shouldn't feel good about yourself. So it's all just it's a process, honestly, and it's a beautiful journey, really.
It is. Actually, speaking of collaboration, you recently had a brunch? Was it a month or two ago at Nkwashi?
Yes, with Nkwashi. That was amazing.
How was that? Like, what were the benefits of that?
Yes, so we were by the lakefront, and it was really, really, really beautiful.
So the session was just right in front of the water and everything. I can imagine.
It was amazing. And again, doing the Pilates outdoors in a beautiful space, it just adds on to that grounding and that mental clarity and relaxation that just works really well with your workouts. We have a few other things planned with Nkwashi, so I'm looking forward to that. And I encourage people to come through. We had a nice brunch afterwards. We took
healthy
a hike.
Foods, hopefully.
Healthy foods. We took a hike. That was also really nice. It was like a walk around the lake. So yes, all those things honestly add on to just feeling really good. Mind, body, soul.
That's really nice to hear. And was this for both males and females? Is Pilates, because I know every time we think of Pilates, it's the ladies.
Yes, it's mainly the ladies, yes. So Pilates is for both men and women. We have a lot of athletes around the world that are now incorporating it into their routines because they're starting to see the benefits. It really does strengthen, especially the core, which is key to any sport, really. Even if you're not playing sport, it's key to your well-being, your overall well-being. So definitely Pilates is for both men and women. For the events, whenever it's just women, we do make that announcement. So the brunch at Nkwashi was only women. Okay. So whenever it's just women, we do let people know. When it's combined, we let people know. And for my classes as well, there's a women's only class and there's a mixed class where men are free to come.
That's beautiful to hear. You're creating a very nice space for we the women.
No, it's amazing, and I'm always championing women just finding their power and following their pursuits and crushing their goals, but not just, you know, in the office or in their business, but also in their own personal lives. And something about finding that balance and and grounding yourself, mind, body, soul, that also just helps boost all of those things that you have going on. And also taking a moment to just pause from
the world.
Yeah, from the world, taking time for yourself, it's
self-care.
Yeah, it is. And I think women really deserve that. They really do. We wear so many hats, and it's nice to just take time for yourself, to pour into you, take a pause from being a mom, being a sister, being all those hats that we wear.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you have planned for Lunar Core Pilates? Anything coming up? Anything interesting? What's happening in the next, I think, between now and the end of the year, maybe?
Oh.
What should we look out for?
Okay. So some are still in the works, some are surprises. But next month, you can look out for another collaboration with Nkwashi.
Okay.
A few months down the line as well, we have an upcoming Pilates retreat, Lake Malawi with Robin Pope Safaris.
Wow.
So it was supposed to be end of June, but it was postponed, and we'll announce those dates as well. That as well will be beautiful by the lakefront. And
you mind telling me more about that? I'm curious. So what does that mean? What are people traveling for? Why should I join?
Why come for a retreat? Especially if you're going to cross the border literally to another country. It's a beautiful property. I haven't been yet, but I've seen the videos and the pictures, and I've had people that have traveled there and they've given beautiful reviews. So with the Pilates retreats, we'll have workouts every mornings and some evenings, and it's an adventure retreat as well. So, there'll be fishing and kayaking and sailing on the boats. Really just being out in nature and finding that balance and inner peace, but at the same time you're working out, having chats, wellness chats with like-minded people, all encompassing. And really, that
sounds really, really, really exciting.
I highly recommend it. And we usually do the same things. Everyday society, we do the same thing. So why not take a moment to just try something different? And that's, I think, an exciting way to give that a
it really
shot.
is some self-care. Like, we deserve it.
Yes.
Is it for women only?
Which one exactly?
The retreat?
No, men and women.
Nice.
Men and women.
Okay, that's good.
So we'll announce the dates hopefully soon.
Okay, so how do we know when you announce the dates? How do we find you? Where are your classes? Online presence?
Yes, so online presence, we have an Instagram page, Lunar Core Pilates.
Lunar Core Pilates.
Yes, Luna with an R. We have a website as well, www.lunarcorepilates.com, so you can learn more about Pilates, learn more about my journey, see some of our reviews as well. And yes, so website and Instagram is where you can find us. That's where the announcements will be made. And also LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn page, Lunar Core Pilates. So yes, you can search for us and join our loving community and see what else we have lined up for the rest of the year.
Wow, nice. Thank you so much for sharing this. It's inspiring. And I'm sure for somebody listening, they'll be like, okay, I need to actually consider this and do it. Yeah, so is there anything else you wish I had asked?
No, I think you've been amazing, actually. I think you really asked.
Thank you. As the first guest, thank you.
This was an amazing chat, and I'm so glad we finally did this. And it was so nice to just talk about my journey and also share the benefits of this world that I'm now in. And you're doing an amazing job. Mental wellness is a big thing, and it's something that we should all prioritize.
We should.
We really, really should. And it shows up in different ways. Be it the stress, like we've talked about, the fatigue, or, having these negative thoughts that are always taking you around in this spiral. All that is mental wellness. Like, you need to just take a moment to self-care in a healthy way. In a healthy way. So I'm glad that you've curated this space, and I'm honored to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. We could go on and on, but I'm so happy to have you here. I
you.
can't wait for this episode to air. But thank you so much for having it. So to our listeners, I hope you found this episode as inspiring and informative as I did. Remember, our environment plays a crucial role in your health behaviors, and making small changes can lead to significant improvements. So if you're in Zambia, if you're in Lusaka, be sure to check out Lukato Pilates for classes and start your transformation journey. That's it for this week's episode. Thank you. Thank you for joining me till the very end. In the world of behavioral science, every ending is just the beginning of something new. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and stay tuned for more adventures in behavioral science as we continue our journey towards a healthier, more informed decision making. Until then, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay healthy. This is Tabo Lukato Hadonka signing off from Reclamation. Biases that actually control how we make the health decisions we do. Now, there are actually over 170 cognitive biases. I don't know why we keep adding cognitive biases. I don't know why we have so many.
Welcome to Reclamation, the podcast where conversations meet practical insights, guiding you through the maze of behavioral science to empower better public health outcomes. With a passion for bridging the gap between medicine, psychology, and sociology, Tabo brings a unique perspective to every episode. Get ready to reclaim your understanding of health and behavior. This is Reclamation.
Welcome back to Reclamation. You've made it to the third episode. Wow. So, it's actually so hard to talk so clearly and try to be fluent and try to be clear enough for people to understand what you're trying to say without them having to see you. And so it got me thinking about how I decided to start this podcast. Before starting Reclamation, I had to think about why I wanted to have the podcast. I had to think about if I was capable of actually hosting a podcast, if I had the time, if I had the energy, what I wanted to talk about, who the podcast is for. And that made me realize just how much thought got into the planning of the podcast, the planning of the episodes. What am I going to talk about? Who is it for? Is it going to be beneficial? Is it, everything, all the, how am I going to record it? How's the editing going to be done? On what platforms? There's just so much thought that goes into preparing for a podcast and putting up an episode. But then this week I was attending a scholars bootcamp, and during the tea breaks we have options of having either coffee, tea, or a cold drink. And for some reason I didn't have to think it through. I automatically knew I had two options. Despite being given three, in my head, it's like I only had to choose between the coffee or the cold juice, because that's what I like. That's what I prefer. And I had just been interchanging between the two continuously throughout the days. I didn't really give it a thought. It's not something that it just happened automatically. It made me realize how there's some decisions we make that we actually have to put so much thought into looking at, why do I want to do this? How am I going to do this? But then there are other decisions in our life that we make, and it's just, we don't really give it. It's like within 30 seconds, you know what you want to do. And I guess that applies to a lot of other things, because you can't keep spending so much time on simple decisions such as what color jersey, not what color jersey you're going to wear, because we do put some thought into that, but something like what example can I think of? What example can I give? Something about the type of spoon you're going to pick from your drawer when you want to have your cereal or something. I don't think it's something a lot of us go, and stand there and weigh the pros and the cons and the what and why do I want to do this? What's going to work better? You just pick the quickest, because it's either what you do all the time or what you've seen being done by most people. And that is what we're going to talk about today. This episode is about cognitive biases. We're diving into the fascinating world of cognitive biases and their profound impact on health decisions and behaviors. When it comes to making healthy decisions, our brains play a crucial role. However, our brains are not always as rational as we think, and cognitive biases can impact our choices related to health and wellness in general. Nothing is more important to a human than health and well-being, yet certain cognitive and other cultural biases can impede the access to life-saving health and behavior interventions that we choose for ourselves. So cognitive biases are like silent puppeteers, I guess, pulling the strings of our mind and guiding our decisions in ways we might not even realize. So we're going to explore a few of the cognitive biases that actually control how we make the health decisions we do. Now, there are actually over 170 cognitive biases. I don't know why we keep adding cognitive biases. I don't know why we have so many, because I feel a lot of them keep overlapping or are somehow similar, or some I feel are actually the same thing, but then just very minimal, almost insignificant differences. But hey, I'm not on that level yet to argue as to what. So I picked 4 of my favorite that I think every single person should know. If you're trying to make better decisions in your life, if you're trying to make better decisions affecting your health, you really need to know these 4 cognitive biases and how they're actually working in your life, how they show up in your life without you noticing. They're literally sneaking up on a lot of us. So the first cognitive bias that I'm going to talk about is the confirmation bias. This is the first one on our list. So this sneaky bias leads us to cherry pick information that supports our existing beliefs, while conveniently ignoring the evidence to the contrary information. So imagine someone convinced that vaccines are harmful. That person is going to be scrolling the internet for articles that confirm their fears, and they will disregard all the other overwhelming scientific evidence supporting vaccinations. I'm sure we all know 1 or 2 people, right? And I mean, we saw this even during the times of COVID, and we see it continuously with all the other vaccines or all the other medications. So a lot of times you're looking for information, but you're looking for information to support the knowledge that you already have. So that can also impact how you make your decisions, what you think is healthy, what you think is unhealthy. Confirmation bias. Check, like, how has this been sneaking up in your life? are they things that you believe in and that you can support with your life and pull out articles and Google, and somehow those are the articles you're going to concentrate on, even if there are other articles suggesting otherwise. So yes, that's a very interesting one because I see it a lot. And then, this thing where you hear about a friend of a friend who contracted a rare disease, and suddenly you are convinced it's more common than it actually is. So this is the second bias we're talking about. This is the availability heuristic. So this bias usually clouds our judgment, making us overestimate the likelihood of events based solely on how easily they come to mind. Because it's something that is stuck in your mind because you remember it was a traumatic story or it moved you emotionally, and all of a sudden you think, so okay, this is actually happening more often than it actually is. So for example, if we hear about a friend's experience with a particular diet or an exercise routine, we may assume it will work for us as well without considering our unique circumstances, leading to the biased decision makings. Like, there's so many things we don't factor in: our metabolism, our watts. It's just, it worked for this person, so automatically it's working for so many people, and then we think it's automatically going to work for me. We see this in the diet plans that we adapt. We see this in the exercise routines. It happens so many times just because there are so many people who are popping up on your timeline, on your social media pages, on the media you're consuming, who are testifying to a particular health habit, and you automatically think it's going to work for you because majority of the people seem to be doing it. I don't know, but I think this bias can somehow be used for good as well. I think it can be used to encourage good, healthy behavior. More like what I try to do with my story of taking my ARVs, having an undetectable viral load, and not infecting my husband and my little baby. I guess we are trying to use it, but are we using it as much as we could? because I see it being used in HIV, like with my story. So automatically, if more people come out, then even the few people who have the stigma and the self-denial are encouraged to do it and take their medication. That's availability, because you feel, oh, everybody else who's living with HIV is actually able to live a healthy life. So that is one way in which we could use the availability heuristic, but maybe we're not really using it enough in the health sector. I don't know. What do you guys think? Are there other ways you think we could use it better? Are they? So that was the second one, right? So the third one is the anchoring bias. So this is our next contender. It can really throw a wrench in our health decisions. Imagine you're at the doctor's office and they throw a scary sounding number at you, like your risk of developing a certain condition. That number sticks in your head like glue, influencing your perception of risk, even when other factors suggest otherwise. So the anchoring effect states that an individual's decision is influenced by the first point of information offered, or the reference point, hence the anchor, like the binding, like the first piece of information you have, the first thought that comes to mind, you stick with it and you go with it forever or for life. So in such a case, it can present itself in, for example, a patient may feel signs of relief, after taking some medication for a few days, and you suddenly feel relief, and that sticks in your head, and you conclude that, oh, you know what, I'm cured, not realizing that the ailment may still exist in subdued manner, and the medication's course need to be fulfilled for full treatment. And I think this is the leading cause behind the looming global antimicrobial resistance crisis that we're currently facing. Because as people do not complete their prescribed antibiotic courses, the infection that is actually causing the microbes continues multiplying and are not completely terminated. Instead, they grow resistance to the microbials and become immune to treatment. We see this in so many antibiotics. We see this even the TB resistant, the multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. It's seen in so many other diseases as well. And hence we have this AMR crisis currently. So it's like anchoring biases or the anchoring effect. It's actually interesting how it is affecting our health. It's affecting us individually. It's affecting our community and public health in general. So moving on to the very last bias that I think is important for you to know. In the last episode on the rat pack and how the environment affects health behaviors, I talked about how I managed to adhere to my treatment by taking my ARV drugs and putting them near the socket in my room. So this is connected to this bias I want to talk about, the projection bias. So this is a common cognitive bias, and it often leads individuals to make short-sighted decisions based on their current emotions and belief. So this bias, I see it a lot in people who are living with chronic illnesses, especially because in that moment, you are so determined to change your life, so determined to live a healthy life, so determined to do right and follow the doctors' and physicians' orders. You're given treatment, you're told to take it in a specific way, and you are so sure you're going to do it. And 3 days later, a week later, you are actually not taking it the way you're supposed to be taking it. This is the projection bias. So this bias arises from the tendency to overestimate how much our future selves will share our current preferences, values, and beliefs. So just because in this moment you're feeling motivated to do something, you believe that that is always going to be like that in the future. In the realm of the healthcare, as I said, where chronic illnesses demand the long-term management and lifestyle changes, it's crucial to address this bias because we need to promote healthier habits and to improve patient outcomes. So the projection bias can actually significantly impact decision-making regarding health-related behaviors. So patients may underestimate the extent to which their future selves will prioritize their health, leading them to make choices that cater to their immediate desires and emotions rather than their long-term well-being. I mean, we see this in the patients that are struggling with substance misuse of a particular substance and are not ready to give it up because they believe they are okay, they believe they are fine, and do not realize or do not anticipate that in the future what they're actually feeling and believing, because what is currently happening is giving them immediate gratification. It might change. Their beliefs, their priorities might actually change. And that's why in the last episode, I talked about how I look out for future me, because I might not always be motivated or remember to take the medication. So this is a very common bias we see. This is a very common bias we fall victims of. I mean, a lot of us actually fall victim of this in just the way we choose to buy our snacks. You know, when you're motivated, you're starting a new month and you're like, I'm done with all the junk food. I'm only buying healthy snacks, the fruits, the vegetables. And then later you get home 2 days in and you open your fridge, you open your drawers, and there's nothing that you really want to eat because you filled it up with the healthy stuff. So that is one way of actually trying to avoid this projection bias. That's one way of actually knowing about it and trying to do something about it, because you know it's going to happen and you are looking out for your future self, as I had said. So that's something you need to ask yourself how it might be creeping in. Do you overestimate the future you, how capable future you is of looking out for yourself? So yeah, that's something to think about. So knowing about these cognitive biases is one thing, and I cannot say that you can completely avoid them. Being aware of a cognitive bias doesn't mean you can completely avoid them. It's almost like saying, because I am aware that bullets make ouchies, therefore I can dodge them. Like, we know bullets, we know the impact bullets have, but you can't always completely dodge them. But then the thing is, they are bulletproof. But the thing is, there's still bulletproof armor nonetheless. So it's something to actually know. It's definitely not going to help you avoid them completely. But if you know nothing about them, you can't do anything at all. And the people who actually know about these biases can weaponize them against those of us who may not actually know about them. So what can we actually do now that we know them? We need to equip ourselves with some tools to combat their influence on our health decision. Tools such as seeking diverse perspectives, surrounding ourselves with a variety of viewpoints can help challenge our biases and lead to a more well-rounded decision-making when it comes to our health. Like, we need to hone our critical thinking skills by questioning assumptions. Like, just because we've always believed something doesn't mean it's true. So by interrogating our beliefs, we can uncover hidden biases that are actually contributing to our decision-making when it comes to health. So biases aren't actually completely bad. Biases are not bad. We humans rely heavily on these cognitive biases as they can actually help us. We wouldn't want to unlearn all our autopilot features that help us get throughout the day without having to spend ridiculous amounts of brain power making small decisions. But that self-awareness can be really helpful to make sure we are not on autopilot all the time for decisions that actually do matter. So what biases have you actually been falling victims of? Can you think of any? Have you looked up any others? What other interesting biases have you found? As I said, there are over 170. So how are these biases appearing in your life? How are they affecting that health behavior you have been stuck to, that you've been believing in with all your heart? Like, I'm hoping me sharing a bit about this will open a worm of you wanting to seek more knowledge into looking at this and trying to avoid it and be wary of it, and make sure that the people who actually do use these biases, the people who are after our money, people use it for marketing, you're actually not falling victim of these biases. Please let me know if there are any other interesting biases that you found. You can please share them on the comments if you're listening to this on YouTube. I would really like to hear about these biases and how you think they have shown up in your life. So that is it for today's episode. I hope after this, we have realized just how much power our brain has, and we can actually use that power for good and to change our lives. So that's it for today. Thank you for joining me till the very end. In the world of behavioral science, every ending is just the beginning of something new. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and stay tuned for more adventures in behavioral science as we continue our journey towards a healthier, more informed decision making. Until then, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay healthy. This is Tabo Lukato Hadunka signing off from Reclamation. Three major ways in which our surrounding might be holding us back from being the person we want to be, or from doing what we want to do, or from quitting the bad habits and behaviors we want to.
Welcome to Reclamation, the podcast where conversations meet practical insights, guiding you through the maze of behavioral science to empower better public health outcomes. With a passion for bridging the gap between medicine, psychology, and sociology, Tabo brings a unique perspective to every episode. Get ready to reclaim your understanding of health and behavior. This is Reclamation.
Welcome back to another episode of Reclamation. So, for somebody like me living with a chronic disease such as HIV, that means I have to take my medication every single day for life. And that can be a bit hard to do because it's not a normal thing. It's not everybody who's taking medication every day. It's not a natural way of life. So it's something that you have to be deliberate about doing in order to stay healthy and stay fit. So when I actually decided I wanted to get serious with doing this life thing, I went into a deep dive to figure out how I was going to ensure I take my medication every day. So I actually checked out the definitions of a habit and of behavior, because if you're like me, I even till date, I still use these words interchangeably. Is that a word? Yeah. I still use both of them the same way. So I found that the definition of a habit is the impulse to do a behavior with little or no conscious thought. So I was like, okay, so this is what I actually need to do in order for me to make sure I'm always taking my medication, because I'm going to be taking it for life. And a habit is like brushing our teeth every morning. That would count as a habit because you don't really give it thought and it's repetitive. And you're not really conscious about it. Well, at least for most of us, like you know that every morning you have to do that. So how was I going to get my mind and my brain to turn taking my medication every day into a habit? And I just discovered during that same period how the environment actually plays such a huge role in the habits you're trying to form, in behaviors you're trying to form, be it new healthy behaviors and habits, and even habits and behaviors that you're trying to avoid and stay away from. Sometimes the environment can just be working against you. So in this week's episode, we're going to uncover the hidden nudges in public spaces that can push us towards healthier habits or pull us into the unhealthy ones, and how even the smallest changes in your home can help create a healthier habit. And we'll also talk about why I chose to keep my medication right next to the socket in my room. So because you've already figured out from the last episode, willpower is never enough. There's so many things we want to do, but willpower is just never enough. If you haven't, from the last episode, please go back, listen to the episode, and then you can continue with this one. So in the 1950s and 60s, scientists believed that addiction was all about the drug itself. They thought morphine was just a siren that caused people and people can't stay away and resist. So they set up these little tiny rat condos, or individual cages rather, each with a water dispenser containing morphine and other opiates. It was like a cocktail of drugs. And the rats had control over how much morphine they took because there was a lever connected to each rat and they could push it according to how much they wanted into their system. And obviously, the rats got addicted because they would always keep pushing the lever and infusing more of the drug cocktail into their bodies. So they slapped up the morphine water like their life depended on it. In the 1970s, though, Dr. Bruce Alexander, a Canadian psychologist, was like, hold up. He looked at the lonely morphine-sipping rats and thought, something smells fishy here. Or maybe it was just the rat pellets. Anyway, he decided to create a rat paradise, a rat park. So Dr. Alexander and his team created a large, comfortable environment for multiple rats. This environment was spacious with toys, tunnels, and other forms of social and physical stimulation. Everything a rat's heart desired, I guess. And the researchers, Dr. Alexander's team, believed that this setting was a closer representation of a rat's natural habitat than the standard laboratory cages that were always used. Now here's the twist. 2 groups of rats were used in the experiment. One group lived in the standard lab cages, isolated from the other rats, while the other group lived in the enriched environment of Rat Pack, the one with the rats' heart desires. Both groups of rats were given access to 2 water bottles, one containing a solution of plain water, and the other was containing a solution of the water mixed with the cocaine and the other opiates, the drug cocktail. The rats could choose which solution to drink on their own accord. And the rats living in the enriched environment of Rat Pack consumed significantly less of the drug cocktail than the rats that lived in the standard lab cages. So Dr. Alexander's team concluded that social and environmental factors in Rat Pack, such as the social interactions and mental stimulation, played a crucial role in reducing the rats' inclination to self-administer the drugged water. I think this shows just how much impact the environment has on addiction, on substance abuse, and even on human behavior in general. So our environment, obviously, unlike the environment created by Dr. Alexander, the rat haven he created, the rat park, is far from stress-free. Like, it's almost impossible to recreate the perfect world, the utopia, where there's socialization and every of your heart's desires. Worse still, as far as I can tell, we will, for the foreseeable future, be unable to create such a utopia for most people on Earth. So we really have to work with what we have in a way, or change what we can change. And that's what we're talking about today. I like to believe there are 3 major ways in which our surrounding might be holding us back. Might be holding us back from being the person we want to be, or from doing what we want to do, or from quitting the bad habits and behaviors we want to. And I think it's very important for anybody who is actually trying to develop a new habit to be wary of these 3 things. I think you being aware about them and knowing how to go about them is very important for you to achieve the goal that you're trying to when it comes to health behavior and behavior change. The first one being the environmental triggers. Like what around you, what in your environment is encouraging that behavior that you want to get rid of, that behavior that is affecting your health or your mental well-being. Like what about your environment? What about your living room? What about your bedroom? What about your workplace? What about your classroom or your school or the paths you decide to take is actually enabling that? And that's something that we need to be really conscious of. It's like what routes do you choose to take when you leave the office and head back home? Are you continuously using that exact same route which has that drive-through and you're trying to avoid, and yet you're trying to avoid fast food? But you always end up after a very busy, exhausted work day right in front of the road that has a drive-through, and you pass there and make the same order every other day. So those are the small things in our environment that we don't really think of that might be actually enabling a habit you are trying to quit or to get rid of or to reduce on. So it's looking at your space, looking at the space in your home, looking at the spaces you spend your day at, looking at the places you choose to go to. How are they encouraging the behavior you're trying to achieve? How are they getting you closer to the version of the person you want to be? And how are they hindering that? And when you know that, you can actually try to do something within your power. And the second thing, actually, on the first part, I've just remembered a story I was told. So in this particular village, they had an issue with littering. So littering was a huge issue in this community, like plastic bottles, wrappers everywhere. And I think this is something a lot of us in Zambia, a lot of us in Lusaka can actually relate to. But then something changed. The community came together to paint murals on their buildings, celebrating their natural heritage, depicting scenes of clean, litter-free streets. And guess what happened? Just because of that facelift, littering rates dropped significantly. People started taking pride in their environment, keeping it clean for everyone to enjoy. So it was such a simple change as just the visual stimulation of the community, seeing how clean the buildings are looking and how attractive they are. And that was encouraging people to decide to also keep their streets clean and make sure that they actually place their plastic bottles and wrappers and the trash where it actually belongs. So that's a very small, it seems like a very small act, but you'd actually be surprised just how huge of a difference it makes in trying to get a group of people to behave in a certain way, or trying to get even you as an individual to behave in a certain way that you're actually trying to. The next point is the social norms and the peer pressure. Hey, guys, peer pressure isn't for teenagers only. A lot of times when we talk about peer pressure, we're thinking kids, we're thinking teenagers, adolescents, but peer pressure it's continuous. It's one constant through life. It's just that sometimes we deny just how much influence our peers, our friends, our family, our acquaintances have on us and the things we do. So social pressure really affects our choices. It's very hard to quit a habit when everybody around you is engaging in the same thing. It's very, very hard to stop taking a substance when the circle of friends you keep still indulge in that. It's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. It is possible, but it's extremely hard, and you want to make your life easier if it's something you're trying to cut down on. So it's It's what about the social norms and peer influence? How are those affecting or holding you back? Like at gatherings, you're faced with peer pressure to drink alcohol, you're faced with peer pressure to smoke, but you have to be prepared for that peer pressure, I guess, and find an escape plan or find a way of going about it. Is it finding circles of friends who do not indulge, or limiting the amount of time you spend with specific people or around certain people? It could be you just making a plan of what you are going to do when you are in that environment. I know the one thing that is hard for a lot of us is dieting, especially during the festive season. Very few people will tell you that the festive season is when they gained the most weight, especially here where we really take that serious. Like December. December is the time when the most alcohol is consumed, the most food is consumed, and it's so hard to stick to a diet plan if you're on a diet plan and you're trying to reduce your calorie intake or trying to avoid certain type of food. It's extremely hard. So it's you knowing to say this is going to happen. So what are we going to do about it? What is in my control? How can I go about it? Because now I know, because it's one thing to know, but then it's about what action am I going to take? Because I'm aware of the social norms and the peer influence and how they are affecting and standing in the way of me being this person that I see myself being. And the third point is availability and accessibility. So this point is actually interesting because it takes me back to the rat pack, our little rat avengers. So, a lot of studies have shown that with most human beings, when it comes to healthy behaviors, if you are actually given both options in equal amounts, like the healthy behavior and the unhealthy one, and none of them is forced on you and it's just all things equal, a lot of the times, majority of the people would opt for the healthier option, the healthier habit, the healthier behavior, the healthier action. So a lot of the times, the unhealthy habits that we indulge in, it's simply because you didn't have the healthier option pushed into your face as much as possible. So it's how often are you surrounding yourself with the healthy options? Like, are you in places where you can actually freely choose? Are all things equal? Or are you finding yourself in places where it's more convenient to have the unhealthy ones? Like the example I gave of using the route where there's a drive-through with fast food and you're actually trying to reduce on the fast food you're having. So that is accessibility and availability. Make it easier for yourself. Willpower is not enough. I keep repeating this. Willpower is not enough. Me wanting to take my medication every day is not enough. I need to also help myself. I need to think of future me. Like, I want to take my medication right now, but will I want to do it 6 hours from now when I'm actually supposed to take my medication? What am I doing to make it easier for future me? Future me could be me 6 hours from now. Future me could be me 2 days from now. Like, what am I actually doing to ensure that it's an easy option for me? The option is available. The option is accessible. So that's how I actually decided to keep my bottle of medication, my ARVs, near a socket. So I have a socket that is right by the dresser. It's very conveniently placed. And the one thing that I discovered I am consistent with, charging my phones at night. I rarely forget to charge my phones at night because I want to wake up and have my phone's on 100%. I am assured that I'll be on my phone, I'll be online, I'll be able to communicate the whole day. And as we discussed in the first episode, the results of instant gratification, like behaviors that give you instant gratification, are easier to maintain. So with me charging my phone, it's so much easier because I know the results of that. I'm going to reap them the very next day because I'm going to have a fully charged phone. And I'm also going to know to say the repercussion of not actually putting it on the charger means I get to move around without a charged phone. I am not able to communicate with my husband, with the nanny at home, with friends and family. And it's extremely inconvenient. So that was always going to push me to want to put my phone on the charger. And I think it has now turned into, it's a habit. It's something I don't think of. Immediately it's time for bed. I get into the room. What I'm doing is connecting my phone onto the charger, the socket, and charging it. So I discovered that usually when you're trying to develop a new behavior and turn it into a habit, it's so much easier if you're piggy banking on a habit that you already have. So the putting my phone on the charger is an existing habit that I've been doing for a very long time. So in order for me to remember to take my medication every single evening, I decided I'm going to place my drugs right at the socket. So that way, I never really think about, oh, I have to take my drugs. But once I get into the room and it's time for bed and I'm connecting my phone onto the charger, what I see is my drugs. Then automatically I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do this as well. And that's how I have ensured that I take my drugs every single evening. So if I do not charge my phone that night, the chances are very high that I've not taken my medication, unfortunately. But it's made my life so much easier. It's something that I've eventually turned into a habit or close to a habit, I guess. So that is me trying to manipulate my environment. I made it accessible. I've made it available. I've made it right, making sure it's right in my eyes before bedtime. And I've used a habit that already exists, one that has immediate gratification and immediate repercussions if I don't do it. Because, I mean, if I left it all to just taking the medication, the repercussions of not taking the medication, I'm not going to see them within a week or within a month. That's the thing. So this has really worked for me. So I'm urging a lot of you to think of what in your environment is working against you being the person you want to be, and what is actually helping you. What can you take advantage of? How can you change your personal space to encourage that habit that you're trying to form, to maintain that habit? It's not enough to want to. The willpower and motivation is not enough. It's really not enough. So how are you helping yourself to actually continue being or working towards being that person or the version that you want to be when it comes to your health, when it comes to your well-being? So there's actually a second part to Dr. Alexander's experiment. The rats, remember them, the rat pack? So Dr. Alexander wasn't done. Like, remember the experiment? He had the rats in the lab cage and he had the others in the rat pack. So he wondered, can we unaddict the addicted ones, the addicted rats? So what he did is he went further and he took the rats which had been in the lab cages, the typical lab cages, the ones that had been on the morphine bender for weeks. He gave them options of the plain water or maintaining the same morphine drug cocktail. And you'd be surprised how many of the rats opted for the plain water, even though they had already been addicted to the morphine and had turned into addicts. But once they were moved into the new environment where there was everything to play with, the socialization, the stimulation, the rats' heart desires, a lot of them opted to be taking the plain water, despite them having withdrawal symptoms that were unpleasant. So again, this actually reinforces just how much of the environment actually plays a role in behavior, in both forming new behaviors and in getting rid of bad behaviors. So our environments actually matter a lot. And we are not just chemical reactions. We are social creatures. Our cages, whether literal or metaphorical, they really do affect our behavior. Things like loneliness, stress, and disconnection, they are real villains. So as we navigate our own rat packs, filled with screens, concrete jungles, and the Wi-Fi passwords, let's remember that connections actually heal and purpose empowers. And maybe, just maybe, we can unaddict ourselves by creating our own rat pack. Now, like we've already established, we can't control every single aspect of the environment and the effects it has on us. And to make matters even more complicated, we know that there are biological influences related to genetic differences, the neonatal birth-related circumstances, early nutrition, and all those, and how they can affect and alter brain mechanisms and make people more or less susceptible. This word always shows me flames, but yes, susceptible to the effects of trauma. So switching up your environment might not really be the silver bullet to behavior change, but it makes significant impact. So why not be deliberate about the parts of the environment that we can control? Because behavioral adaptation, it means people can change the way they act and what they do based on what's happening around them. When we're talking about addiction, it suggests that individuals can learn and pick up new, healthier habits to replace the ones linked to addiction. And that's the thing I'm always telling even the clients I'm seeing, that it's hard to get rid of a habit if you don't have something to replace it with. So this might include coming up with ways of handling stress, managing tough situations, and making healthier life choices. So that's just something I want you to think about at the end of this episode. Like how is your rat park looking like? How have you designed your rat park? And how can you design it further to help you achieve the goal that you want to? I hope this is something that actually gets a lot of us thinking and pushes you to design your own little rat pack in the best way possible that you can. And that's the end of today's episode. Thank you for joining me till the very end. In the world of behavioral science, every ending is just the beginning of something new. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and stay tuned for more adventures in behavioral science as we continue our journey towards a healthier, more informed decision making. Until then, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay healthy. This is Tabo Lukato Hadonka signing off from Reclamation. Or cut down on screen time. Behavioral science has got your back. It's like having a secret weapon in the battle against bad habits. Now let's get real for a second. Change is hard.
Welcome to Reclamation, the podcast where conversations meet practical insights, guiding you through the maze of behavioral science to empower better public health outcomes. With a passion for bridging the gap between medicine, psychology, and sociology, Tabo brings a unique perspective to every episode. Get ready to reclaim your understanding of health and behavior. This is Reclamation.
Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the Reclamation podcast. I'm your host, Tabo Lukato Hadunka, and I'm coming to you from the heart of Zambia. Today marks not just the beginning of a podcast series, but the dawn of a journey we embark on together, a journey of understanding, change, and empowerment. As we navigate through the ebbs and flows of life, we often overlook the power that lies within us, the power to transform our behaviors for a healthier, happier existence. You see, this isn't just any podcast. This is a movement. It's a reclamation of our innate ability to shape our destinies through informed choices and deliberate actions. And I'm here to guide you through it all. Well, at least try to. But before we dive into the depths of behavioral science and its wonders, let me share a piece of my heart with you. For over 2 decades, I've been living with HIV, a journey that has taught me resilience, compassion, and most importantly, the significance of behavioral change. From taking my medication religiously to adopting a lifestyle that supports my well-being, every step has been a conscious choice. It's been a testament of how altering our behavior can indeed alter our lives. And that's pretty much what reclamation is about. It's about reclaiming control over our health by understanding why we do what we do and how we can actually do it better. It's about bridging the gap between knowledge and action, because it's one thing to have the knowledge, but actually materialize what you know and turn it into action? Yeah. So whether you're here seeking inspiration, knowledge, or just good old-fashioned company, I promise you this: you live with a spark to ignite change within yourself and within your community. In each episode, we'll unravel the mysteries of human behavior. We'll explore how motivation works, why systems and culture plays such a pivotal role in shaping us, and how we can harness the power of behavioral science to enhance our lives. But yeah, more than that, we'll share stories, obviously. Stories of triumphs, stories of trials, stories that resonate with each one of us on a personal level. Because at the end of the day, it's our stories that bind us together in this shared human experience, hey? Okay, back to my story. So over 20 years ago, life threw me a curveball that no one could have seen coming. I was diagnosed with HIV. And this was a time when the world whispered about it in hushed tones. The future seemed like a distant dream. But here I am, 2 decades later. Not just surviving, but I don't know, am I thriving? But yeah, thriving, I guess. And I owe it all to understanding and harnessing the power of behavior change. With a little humor and a lot of determination, I decided that HIV was going to be a part of my story, but not the whole narrative. But it wasn't just about popping pills and calling it a day. Nope. This was going to be a full-on lifestyle makeover. We're talking diet changes, goodbye late-night pizza runs, right? But yeah, we're still working on that. Exercise too, because it turns out sweating is actually good for you. And through it all, I learned that behavior change is less about willpower and more about strategy. Because, we have the willpower to do a lot of things, but we somehow still do not execute them. So it's like playing chess with your habits. You've got to think 3 moves ahead and be ready to pivot when life puts you in check. Now, let's talk stigma. If HIV were a person, it would be the most misunderstood character in the story of life. So I made it my mission to set the record straight. Not just for me, but for everybody else living with this virus. We're not victims, we're victors. And if anyone has a problem with that, well, they can kindly take several seats. But humor aside, advocating for HIV awareness became more than just a passion. It's become my purpose. And I won't lie to you. There are days when the weight of it all feels too heavy to bear. Days when the fear creeps in. But, these are also the days when I usually discover just how strong I really am. You see, living with HIV is not just about managing the virus. It's about embracing life with all its ups and downs. It's about finding joy in the little things. A perfect cup of coffee, a good hair day, which I unfortunately can't relate to right now, or even just making somebody smile. And as for behavior change, well, it's become my superpower, I guess. It's allowed me to take control of my health narrative and write chapters filled with hope and healing. So here's what I want you to take away from my story. No matter what life throws at you, be it HIV or any other challenge, you have the power to change your behavior and change your life. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so let's get into it. Behavioral science. Behavioral science. So behavioral science isn't just academic jargon. It's the study of why we do what we do and how we can do it better. It's about making informed choices and taking deliberate actions that lead us towards healthier, happier lives and happier versions of ourselves. Imagine it as the GPS of human behavior. It helps us navigate why we do what we do and how we can do it better. So it's like having a personal life coach in your pocket, but obviously without that hefty price tag, eh? Now you might be thinking, behavioral science, this sounds complicated. But trust me, it's all around us. It's in the ways we choose our morning cereal, or the way we choose the route to take to work, or even how we decide to swipe left or right on that dating app. No judgment here. At its core, behavioral science is about understanding the mechanics of decision making. It's about figuring out the why behind our actions and using that knowledge to make positive changes. And here's the best part. You don't need a PhD to apply behavioral science in your life. All you need is a little curiosity and a willingness to experiment. So like you want to eat healthier? I mean, I've been struggling with eating healthier. So maybe try placing fruits and vegetables at eye level in your fridge. Like don't place them at the bottom where you can't easily see them. That might help and encourage you to eat healthier. Or are you looking to save money? Then set up an automatic transfer to your savings account every payday. For example, did you know that simply changing the wording on a sign can influence how many people wash their hands in a restroom? Yep, experiments have been made just from the different language and wording of a sign. The number of people who actually washed their hands after using the loo increases. Or that reducing the plate size can help combat overeating. So yep, behavioral science is that cool kid in class who knows all the tips and tricks. And let's face it, we could all use a little help in the decision-making department. Well, at least I know I could. I mean, who hasn't stood in front of an open fridge on a lazy morning, wondering if that leftover pizza counts as a balanced breakfast because it has some vegetables sprinkled on it? So whether you're trying to stick to a workout routine or cut down on screen time, behavioral science has got your back. It's like having a secret weapon in the battle against bad habits. Now let's get real for a second. Change is hard. Change is hard. It's like trying to teach an old dog new tricks, except the dog is us and the tricks are healthier habits. But here's the kicker. Change is also possible, and not just winning the lottery possible or your Betway ticket passing possible, no, but actually happening every day possible. But it's not just about physical steps. It's about mental shifts too. It's about rewiring our brains to embrace new patterns and say goodbye to the old ones. And trust me, our brains are more flexible than we give them credit for. Think about it this way. Every time you make a choice, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you want to be. So, like, if you want to be someone who exercises regularly, every workout is a vote. So you're actually casting a vote towards that version of the person you want to be. And sure, there will be days when you slip up, when the vote goes to procrastination party or binge watching Bonanza, because I'd rather sit down in front of the screen than work out. But that's okay, because change isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Somebody told me that messy progress is okay. So the beauty of behavioral change is that it's not a one-size-fits-all deal. It's tailor-made to fit your particular life, your personalized goals, and your quirks. Now, I won't sugarcoat it. Transformation takes work. It's like building a muscle, You've got to exercise it regularly. But it's just like any good workout. The results are worth it. And I'm not just talking about the toned abs, though that would be really nice too. So yeah, in this podcast, we're going to explore all things behavior, from the way we tackle public health issues in Zambia to how we can transform our personal lives for the better. We'll delve into topics like mental health, holistic well-being, and yes, even how to make those pesky New Year's resolutions stick. Because, yeah, how many resolutions go just like that in the drain? So each episode will bring you insights from experts in the field, practical tips you can apply to your daily life, and personal anecdotes from yours truly. Because let's face it, sometimes you've got to hear it from someone who's been there, right? So why reclamation? Because that's exactly what this journey is about. It's about taking back what's ours, our agency over our health choices and our ability to shape our own narratives. It's about shedding the stigma and embracing science as our ally in the quest for well-being. And if you're wondering what makes me qualified to lead this change, well, aside from my professional credentials and personal experience with HIV, I'm someone who believes in the transformative power of hope and action. I have seen firsthand how small changes can lead to big results. So trust me, bro. So whether you're tuning in from Lusaka or listening from halfway across the world, know that this podcast is for you. It's for anyone who's ever wanted to make a change but didn't know where to start. It's for those who are curious about the science behind our habits, and for those who are ready to take control of their health journey. Now, when you think public health, you might picture white lab coats, serious faces. But let's start with malaria, for example, our not-so-friendly neighborhood mosquito-borne disease. We've all heard the sleep under a mosquito net a million times. But let's be real. For me, when it is hot in the middle of October, it is hot enough to fry an egg on the pavement. That mosquito net, it feels like a sauna. So how do we encourage use? Enter behavioral science. So by understanding what motivates people, like comfort during those hot, sweaty nights, we can design better interventions and not just keep making noise about use a mosquito net, let's end malaria. But why stop at health? Like, behavioral science is also transforming how we drive. Yes, I'm looking at you, mister. I don't need a seatbelt. Or even how we save money, because who wants to get into Nkongole for Christmas? Like, let's start saving now. We have 5 more months. And it's even how we vote. The beauty of this approach is that it's not about dictating behavior. It's about understanding and then enhancing it. It's like having a conversation with the nation, but one where we listen first and then act. So, like, have you ever wondered why it's so hard to resist the second slice of cake? Like, you know, when you have cake in the fridge, like, I'll speak for myself. On my birthdays, there's a full cake and my husband doesn't really enjoy cake. It's very hard to control myself and tell myself I'm only going to have 1 slice in a day. That's almost impossible. We will eat that cake. I will. Let me not even say we. I will eat that cake for breakfast. I will eat it as a mid-morning snack. I will have a slice again just after lunch for dessert. I will have a slice again in the evening while watching a favorite TV show. So yeah, it's really hard to resist the second slice of cake, even when you know you should be done. Or why we check our phones every 5 minutes. Well, behavioral science has the answers. And they are not as complicated as you might think. It actually turns out our brains are wired for instant gratification. That's why the cake is calling my name. And why social media notifications are like catnip. But here's the good news. We can rewire our brains. It's like updating your mental software. Right? But it's not just about self-improvement. It's about community improvement too. Imagine if we all used behavioral science to be a little kinder, or a little more patient, or a little more understanding. We'd be living in a utopia, eh? Or at least a friendlier neighborhood. So whether you're trying to drink more water, or spend less time in front of the screen, or using your phone less, well, at least after this episode, of course, because don't decide you've had enough gadget time for the day when I need you to keep listening to this episode. But you just need to know that every step counts. Now, let's talk about these pesky habits we all want to kick. You know, the ones like biting your nails or hitting snooze one too many times. Behavioral science tells us that to break a habit, we need to replace it with a new one. So it's very hard to actually break a habit because I feel like you leave a vacuum, like you need something to fill up the vacuum. So instead of biting your nails, for example, how about drumming your fingers to the beat of your favorite song? And instead of hitting the snooze button, we put our alarms across the room. And we turn waking up in the morning into a scavenger hunt. Like put your phone away from as far away from the bed so that you're forced to actually get up and turn it off. But has anyone actually tried that though? Because I really struggle with getting up in the morning. So has anybody, I know it's something that has been circulating for a bit. Has anybody given it a try? And has it actually worked out, or have you found better ways of actually getting up early if you're like me who struggles to get up? Please leave a comment on if it actually helped you with getting up on time, or if you found another way of getting up on time. And just like that, we're at the end of the first episode. Wow, you actually made it this far. I hope you now have an idea of what reclamation is about. If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't keep it to yourself. Share the love. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody about it. And thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for joining me till the very end. In the world of behavioral science, every ending is just the beginning of something new. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and stay tuned for more adventures in behavioral science as we continue our journey towards a healthier, more informed decision making. Until then, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay healthy. This is Tabo Lukato Hadunka signing off from Reclamation.